Hello everyone, this is your friend from Naruto Audio Fanfics, and we are back once again with a brand new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was banished and built the ultimate power harem with Kushina, Hinata, Sakura, Ino, Tamari, Mei, Tsunade and Anko. Part 2. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing Naruto fanfics like this. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's fanfic. S you who are stuck here with me. And with a flash of black and red, Naruto was gone for the spot, immediately drawing out shocked expressions from Kakashi, Jiraiya, Kushina, Shikamaru, Asuma, Guy and Sasuke, with the rest of the group being confused, yet everyone had gotten into a standard formation. Hey, did the dead last just pull a shadow clone on us and leave us hanging? Kiba snarled, sniffing the air in the process. Damn it, I can get his smell from here. Akamaru, do you smell that idiot? The large Ninken only whined, stating the opposite. Kiba, that move that Naruto just pulled off was definitely not a shadow clone jutsu. Shikamaru stated with knowledge and full seriousness. Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi-sensei, correct me if I am wrong, but wasn't T that fourth Hokage s Hiraishin? A space and time fuinjutsu, allowing for an instant teleportation from one spot to another. Yeah, that certainly looked like Hiraishin to me. Jiraiya agreed, carefully analyzing the environment around him with the rest of the shinobi here. That definitely looked like Minato signature flying Raijin, but I doubt that Naruto could learn that from anywhere. Hell, the only existing scroll on Hiraishin and written by Minato is in Konoha, with Menma, who still can even get the formula right, and he is a genius, when compared to Naruto. No, the Gaki must be just playing with us here, trying to even up the chances through some cheeky little pranks. Yeah, I agree with you, Jiraiya-sama. I remember during my time training Naruto, that he had an abysmal control over his chakra, at best. Minato-sensei had told me that Hiraishin requires a precise control over one s chakra, as well as a clear and clean vision of where to teleport and where the marker is placed, otherwise one will not succeed in transporting himself, and Naruto was never one to fully focus his attention on anything for at least 10 minutes or so. Kakashi stated with confidence, but still lifted up his headband and revealed his own Sharingan. But, if Naruto wishes to play this game, we might just humor him and take him down a couple of pegs along the lines. 7 years or not, I doubt that Naruto had changed much. I would not be so sure. Naruto has spent a very long time away from Konoha and has made himself a reputation as Hanzo Hattori, one of the most skilled and powerful Ronin of this generation and era. It is only logical to assume that Naruto that we knew is nothing when compared to today s version we are to face now. Shino spoke calmly, but still hiding a good amount of fear in his mind at facing an S-rank head-on. Taking into consideration the reputation that Naruto has garnered himself over the years, confirmed feats, kills and combat information from various sources, I believe our best course of actions would be to tactically retreat or try to reason with him diplomatically. Shino, are you really that afraid of Naruto? See Mon, it s the dead last of our class, the Kyuubi cheater and the number 1 idiot of our village. Trust me, I been in the same team as he, and trust me when I say this, he has nothing on me, Kakashi-sensei, and especially Sasuke-kun. Sakura arrogantly stated, ignorant of lack of logic in her statement. Hell, Sasuke-kun had nearly killed him had Naruto Baka not cheated and pulled a Kyuubi on Sasuke-kun, when Naruto had tried to kill Sasuke-kun in cold blood. Heck, the only reason why he is still alive is probably because of damn luck and Kyuubi, otherwise he should long kick the bucket. Kushina gritted her teeth at hearing the pink-haired Kunoichi say such mean things about her firstborn son. She wished she could reprimanded this disgrace of a shinobi, but then she remembered that she was no better than her until she had returned to Konoha with her Menma 7 years ago. No, she was worse, far worse, having purposefully abandoned her son with a burden that never should be carried out alone, making him a prime target for the village to get rid of through placing a reward upon his head and denying any and all claims by those few that informed her of Naruto's life in Konoha and his behavior. Kushina had always kept an eye out for Naruto, or rather, Kyuubi, as she believed him to be one. She was expecting the demon fox to rise up again and give Kushina a justified excuse to kill the boy herself, to free her son's body and soul from its clutches, but it never happened. Years and years have gone by, with abuse, cruelty, beatings and close-to-death situations, reported to Kushina, and yet, slowly, piece by piece, bit by bit, her previous beliefs were starting to crumble, and the image of a possessed child with whiskers and eyes of a demon was starting to get replaced with one of a horrified, lonely child, crying out for his mother to come for him, surrounded by people all ready to kill him. Kushina had spent countless nights waking up from nightmares at the thoughts of her Naruto, with her dreams showing her son being killed many, many times. And it wasn't Menma, no, but Naruto. Eventually, widow of the fourth Hokage had finally came to a realization of what kind of horrible mistake she has made and with her younger son in tow, rushed back to Konoha, fully intent on reuniting with Naruto and seeking out his forgiveness. However, by the time Kushina had gotten back, it was already too late, as Naruto has been banished from the village for over a month now, and the entirety of Konoha has been absolutely glad it had happened. Her and Menma's return was met with celebrations and she, along with her son, were treated as if they were heroes, with Menma now being renowned as a savior of Konoha for howling half of Kyuubi in him. It was a complete opposite of what Naruto had experienced, according to Tsunade, who not only refused to acknowledge Kushina and Menma as part of her family, but Tsunade had denied them Menma's inheritance as a senju, which was by right his. Kushina was in outrage when her mother-in-law refused to even as much as call Menma by his father's name, but when Tsunade had stated that to her, only Naruto was a true son of Minato and her grandson and that the only reason as to why Tsunade didn't pummel Kushina into dust for what she did was because she didn't want to let her son face Kushina in the afterlife and suffer the shame. Needless to say, relations between Kushina and Tsunade were antagonistic at best, and at its worst, Tsunade wasn't beyond punishing Menma for his seeming arrogance and being intolerable to the fifth Hokage, even if Kushina didn't see anything wrong with her son's behavior. When the news came about Naruto's death, it had nearly shattered Kushina completely. The knowledge that her firstborn was dead and would never even know of her was nearly unbearable. When the funerals came, there were only those that had considered Naruto his or her friend, most of whom were right here as well. Tsunade was also there, crying out loud and even breaking down at Naruto's grave, cursing the village, council, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Kushina for what they all had done to Naruto. Kushina herself was crying at her son's grave, but her small tears were nothing when compared to what Tsunade, Shizune, Kurenai, Hinata, Ayame, Tsuki, Iruka and some others have let out. The advisors and some civilian counselors have also paid a visit, as the council, after the return of Kushina and Menma, had begrudgingly absolved Naruto of all his crimes and punishments, even if most of the village had continued to view Naruto as nothing more but a cheater, troublemaker, and demon. While Kushina was angered and had lashed out at others when the mentioning of this came to her attention, deep down inside she understood that it all was due to her own fault. And now, after 6 years of mourning, she had the chance to reunite her family, and there was no way she would miss it. Naruto, please, I beg of you, come with us back to the village. I know what I had done to you was horrible, and I know how much you suffered because I wasn't there for you. But please, Sochi, just come back with me and your friends here. I can make it all right, we can be a full family, a real one. Kushina shouted out in the woods, hoping to persuade her son to come with them. Your brother and me, we both truly want to have you with us, as a part of our family. I will even train you alongside with your brother and the village will accept you with open arms and you still don T get it, do you? Came Naruto's voice, but pinpointing the source was futile, as Sasuke and Kakashi with their Sharingan and Neji with Byakugan weren't T able to see where Naruto was. You, Menma, the village, everyone here. I don't T give a damn about any of your fates. Everyone S eyes widened, as Naruto's voice came right from their midst and all turned their heads towards him, but before anyone could react, a stabbing sound resonated through the night and a cry of pain was heard. The source of the voice was none other but Shikamaru, in whose back were stabbed 3 Senbon, plunged deep into his spine, immobilizing him and causing severe pain. Naruto stood right behind him, having plunged the Senbon into the spine himself, making sure to disable Shikamaru for good. Without wasting any time, Naruto sent his katana in his right arm to block Asuma's attack at him, who had managed to react first to Naruto's appearance in their midst, so didn't wait with charging up his blades and decided to slice him up first, sending his right blade right at his neck. Had Naruto not trained himself, or he did not possess the profound first-hand experience of war, he would been down already, but he had all of it and more, so his katana blunt side meet with Asuma blade, before Naruto brought his katana down and back, slashing at Jonin's arm, cutting it deeply and nearly severing the bones. Asuma gritted his teeth at pain and nearly let go of his weapon, but his role was completed. He managed to stall Naruto for everyone to get onto him. And just as everyone was already turning towards Naruto, former blonde wasted no time as he kicked Shikamaru in the back, pushing him in the arms of Choji and Lee, before 3 explosive tags had went off right at the feet of Shikamaru and Naruto, engulfing the area around in an explosion and smoke. Fortunately, the rest of the group had managed to react in time to jump right clear away from the area of explosion, with Shikamaru being carried away by Choji and Ino, who joined him. However, even though everyone had cleared away from the area of explosion, Konoha's group now faced a completely different problem. When they jumped away from the explosion, they scattered around the area and were now broken down to pairs and threes, groups that were far easy to pick upon. Most of them understood this, and were already thinking about getting back together, but that is when their luck had once again ran out, as thick, layered with chakra, fog settled in within the barrier, obscuring the vision, smell and even hearing. Water style. Meigen Kurigakure no Jutsu. Naruto mentally said as his personal variant of hidden mist jutsu settled in, as he sat on a tree branch and watched as Konoha's group was split and stuck together with those that they saw closest to them at the moment. Now, time to pick them apart, Naruto thought to himself, as he made his signature hand seal, before he and his clones disappeared in flashes of red and black. Careful, Choji, sat him down more carefully. Ino commanded to her teammate, who sat Shikamaru down, while his injured comrade was shaking slightly, with 3 Senbon right in his back. Okay. Give me some space, I try and see what Naruto had done to Shika here. Ino, who much like Sakura, had went through medical ninja courses back in Konoha, went immediately Shikamaru to examine him, before her eyes widened in shock. This is bad, really bad. Ino, what is it? What did Naruto do with Shika? Choji asked of Ino, worried for his best friend. These Senbon, Naruto didn't just injure Shikamaru, but he plunged those Senbon right in between Shikamaru's vertebrae, with a surgeon precision no less. Ino stated to Choji, who paled instantly. Right now, Shikamaru is paralyzed and can move or react to anything, as his nervous system just went into a shock. For as long as those Senbon are in his back, he won't be able to come to his senses, but if I try to remove them on my own, I can end up crippling Shikamaru completely. One wrong move of those Senbon and your best mind will not be able to move even a muscle. Ino and Choji widened their eyes, as they looked upwards, seeing Naruto sitting right above them. I taken a couple of lessons on human physiology and pressure points whilst I was in Kiri. Must say, their Anbu, Irio nins and Hunter nins really do know their stuff. And their acupuncture is one hell of a stress reliever, a real life savior when you have stiffness all over your body. Naruto, how could you do something like that to Shika? Why you could paralyzed him for life or worse, kill him. Choji shouted at Naruto, who didn't even move a muscle. Look, I know what Shika, me and others have said was bad, and we are all really sorry for it, buddy, but that is not the reason to be so hostile towards us. Why Don you just come with us back in village, and I ll ask my mom to treat you to something really tasty, like the old good times. J just help Shikamaru here and we can all go home together. From that one, Choji and Ino heard a distinct chuckle coming from Naruto, a dark one, before he spoke up. Choji, you were always a jovial buffoon. A good, kind one, but a buffoon nonetheless, always going along with the crowd and letting your stomach does all the thinking before your head. Naruto simply stated to him, with Choji gritting his teeth and tightening his fist. If we really were friends, you would at least ask me about the Kyuubi and what happened in the valley, not berate and accuse me of what I was forced to do. Hell, you and most of the others, you all really are just a bunch of morons, having fallen for Sasuke's tails and turned on me. You were out there too, Choji, and we all knew that Sasuke had defected, yet you, Kiba, Shika here, and everyone else just took the words of a traitor over the supposed friendship with me. Some friends, and as for Shika here, I wouldn't be surprised if he later on said thanks, since moving around is such a drag. Naruto let out an amused chuckle, recalling how lazy Shikamaru could be. You can say that Sasuke had defected, he was under the influence of Curse Mark and it made him go rogue. Ino protested, forcing Naruto to turn to her. He wasn't in the right state of mind when he did it, so you can just blame him for what had happened to you, Naruto. You were the one who injured and nearly killed him, whilst using the Kyuubi and nearly killed, Ino. Naruto asked of her again with a risen brow. Ino, have you, or anyone else, took your time and looked at me when I was in hospital? I had 2 stabbing wounds in chest from Sasuke Chidori, nearly all of my bones were broken or on a brink of breakdown, and don't get me started on a blood loss. And what of Sasuke? A couple of cuts, bruises and some minor concussion, I believe. Yeah, he totally didn't try to kill me and I had put him at death's doorsteps. Naruto simply let out a sigh, getting down onto the ground and looking at the pair, who was ready to fight him. Who am I trying to convince? A number 2 fangirl and a fatso with a brain in his stomach. Anyway, enough talk. Who are you calling fatso? My bones are just, Choji cried out in rage, not even catching a glimpse of Naruto looking in his eyes. Genjutsu. Nocturne embrace. And with that said, Choji's rage was quelled in a second, before his body slumped and fell down onto the ground, with his mind now being plagued by his deepest nightmares and unable to escape them. Akamichi clan focuses on their physical application of their chakra, being able to draw upon yang chakra with relative ease at a limited extent. This makes them best suited for taijutsu, with a lesser reliance on ninjutsu than others, and a complete lack of genjutsu. Want to beat an Akamichi? Use genjutsu. Gotta love Senju Warring States Encyclopedia. What the hell? Choji, are you, and Naruto, you got genjutsu as well? You were supposed to be unable to use any of it. Ino screamed at him, while moving towards Choji to wake him up, but she was unable to reach him, as Naruto appeared right in front of Ino and delivered her a powerful punch in the gut. Yamanaka complete opposite of Akamichi, best at genjutsu due to their mind-controlling abilities, but worst at taijutsu. Naruto mentally recited, as his knee moved to Ino's chest and stroked there, before Naruto grabbed Ino's long hair and repeatedly punched her in the face 5 times in a fast succession with his right hand, breaking her nose in the process. Letting go dazed and unfocused girl, Naruto finished her off with a powerful kick in the head, knocking her out of commission and possibly causing her a concussion. Result: 2 ribs broke, 3 more are damaged, broken nose, cracked skull and a concussion. Naruto thought to himself, looking at the defeated members of Team Asuma, before dispelling and letting the original know that they were dealt with. Clang of metal was heard in a different part of the yard, as Naruto's katana clashed with Asuma.'s chakra trench blades. Whilst Naruto was in near full armor suit, his natural speed and agility, coupled with experience in fighting various opponents and having seen many stances, he was able to match Asuma.'s expertise in close quarters combat, especially having dealt him a serious bleeding wound, which disabled Asuma.'s usage of his right hand. Now all that Naruto needed to do is find a correct opening and strike at his opponent, while his katana, charged with Hine, clashed with Asuma.'s charged up knife and was pushing him back. Striking first at Shika so that he couldn't catch you with his shadow possession was actually clever. And without him, there would be no one who could get a strategy against you. Can believe that I am saying this, but you are good, kid. Asuma gritted his teeth, as Naruto applied some more strength and pushed Asuma back, before kicking him in the stomach, followed by a horizontal slash, which Asuma managed to evade by moving backward, spitting some blood out of his mouth. Shit. Should Vei killed you when I had the chance back then, in Kurenai's home. If only that snake bitch didn't show up. Asuma shouted out as he went again on the offensive, jumping up in the air and trying to land a kick on Naruto. But when Asuma had reached the ground, Naruto already moved away and disappeared into the mist. Not even a single shadow, outline or even a sound could be pinpointed because of the mist. Asuma knew of the Kurigakure no Jutsu, made famous, or infamous, thanks to masters of silent assassination, like Zabuza Momochi, but that jutsu didn't block any hearing or sounds. Naruto's version, on the other hand, seemed to be a far more advanced version of it, as it would appear to Asuma, that the water particles in the air not only completely obscured the vision, but also blocked the sound waves. Considering that the sound travels through air, put a chakra-filled mist with enough juice to stop the air from transporting the sound. As much as Asuma hated Naruto or didn't want to acknowledge him as an equal to him, he had to admit one thing: Naruto has changed. Okay, brat, I give you credit where it s due. You may Vei grown stronger, but still doesn't change the fact of you being an idiot. Asuma taunted Naruto, trying to provoke him, as he was sure that he would be able to hear him, even though this fog was in here. Did you really think my father would Vei allowed such a loose cannon like a Jinchuriki of Kyuubi run free and without any restraints? No, he wouldn't especially when our village had suffered from that damn Kyuubi and was down on manpower. It needed power to keep the other villages from destroying us, and because of that my old man had to keep you nice and docile, considering that your younger brother was in capital at time. You know why he allowed all those beatings? All because he wanted to install fear into you, the fear what would happen if you had betrayed the village. But when Kurenai had adopted you, everyone had started to fear that you might actually grow away from fearing us, so I Vei seduced that girl and gained a way to her home, as well as what s in her pants. Asuma let out an amused chuckle, expecting a reaction from Naruto. Too bad when I decided to simply get the reward for your head, her snake whore showed up and nearly castrated me. I wanted her to be executed, and Kurenai to have the same seal put as on you, but my old man wouldn't have it. It would be detrimental to Konoha's strength, was what he said, so he only done some talking to them and made sure you would never be allowed to either be adopted, or that those two bitches would come near you. You should Vei seen how Kurenai had cried, but don't you worry, I Vei helped her pull through, if you know what I mean. Asuma finally heard a ruffling of the grass in front of him, before Naruto finally appeared with an ice-cold glare directed towards Asuma. You really should "Vey taken my life back then, bastard." Naruto simply noted out to him, as he changed up his stance, bringing his sword with the flat side above the ground, hilt close to his shoulder, with his left hand laying at the tip of the blade. Now, I LLC to it, so that you one T hurt neither Kurenai, nor Anko, Asuma Sarutobi. With that roared out like a dragon, Naruto pushed his body forward and disappeared in a blaze of speed, with Asuma widening his eyes when he recognized that technique. A brought-to-shoulder sword with its flat side over the ground, this technique, it can TB, Asuma had hurried to ready himself for the defense, but ended up missing his opportunity, as a slash came at him, a wound trail going from his right side of torso and diagonally traveling to his left shoulder. Hirazuki. Gutatsu Ashiki. Naruto simply stated, as Asuma dropped his weapon and slumped down on his knees, bleeding profusely, while the former blonde turned to face him. When I was participating in Mizu's civil war, I had taken lessons from Ieyasu's personal guards, Shinsengumi, specifically from one man known as Wolf of Nibu. Wouldn't say I fully mastered his techniques and style, but at the very least, I would say I can hold my own in a sword fight with it. Naruto stood right in front of Asuma, who looked up in his eyes, with Naruto bringing his sword up with both of his hands, seeing fear in Asuma's eyes instantly. Such fear and dread, and this is supposed to be one of the best 12 guardian shinobi. You are almost too pathetic to kill, almost. Asuma widened his eyes, as Naruto brought down his blade upon Asuma, slashing it diagonally down, cutting up his face, left eye, nose and cheek, with the blood starting to gush down onto the ground from a new wound, as Asuma's body hit the dirt and blood started pouring down onto the grass. If you are dead, tell Hiruzen that we are even now. And if not, you make one move towards any of my friends and family, I cut your head clean off. And with that said, Naruto's clone dispelled himself, letting the original know what had transpired with Asuma. Shino's bugs were spread around him, trying to gain an evaluation of the situation and failing. He was logically at a disadvantage, understanding that Naruto he once knew of had changed, completely and utterly. The reputation that he has garnered as Hanzo Hattori spoke volumes of that, as Shino mentally recalled the bingo book entry for Hanzo Hattori. Name: Hanzo Hattori. Age: between 20 and 27. Village: unknown. Status: Ronin, mercenary, former possibly current commander of Tokugawa assassination Anbu unit. Shinobi rank: unknown, possibly Jonin. Rank: S rank. Combat information: known as Second Kurigakure no Oni and Kage no Shi, Hanzo is a master of silent assassinations and CQC, but there is very limited confirmed information on specifics of his styles, techniques and jutsu. What is known is that he possesses 3 elemental natures: wind, water, fire, but unconfirmed reports state he has lightning and earth, along with yin and yang releases as well. Avid user of genjutsu, possible a master level, as well as user of swords, listed as one of top 5 best swordsmen in Mizu no Kuni. Uses advanced tactics and strategies in battle, capable of deciphering and countering battle strategies in the middle of a battle. Level of taijutsu is unknown, level of ninjutsu is Kage, presumably. Possibly possesses a very high level of mastery of fuinjutsu. Feats: killed 561 soldier, including a 150 shinobi of Chunin and Jonin ranks, during the Battle of Mikitagahara in 4 hours timespan. Killed 4th Mizukage Yagura Karataki while in tailed beast mode. Killed Han, Jinchuriki of 5 tails from Iwagakure while in tailed beast mode. Destroyed the temple on Mt. Hien through a fire jutsu, destroying 1/10 of Oda army stationed there. Killed Oda Nobunaga, Demon King of 6th Heaven and user of Maiden. Destroyed Tenko Castle with over 1,000 men inside its walls through unknown fire jutsu. Slaughtered the bloodline faction of Kumo. Fought and forced to retreat Kisame Hoshigaki, unconfirmed. Rewards: 77.000.000. Recommendations: flee on sight. After what Shino has read, as well as heard of Mizu's civil war and how it was more brutal and horrifying than all of Shinobi World Wars combined, the bug user of Konoha was finding far more logical to withdraw from the place, as it seemed like Naruto was more than ready to deal with all of them. So, Shino, what shall it be? Shino turned around and looked at Naruto, who was standing just 7 feet away from him, ready and waiting for him. You are probably the smartest of the group here, and you were one of the few who didn't ostracize me back in Konoha when I returned. It would been illogical and careless, to trust the words of an unstable shinobi turned traitor, like Sasuke, over the words of a proven trustworthy and loyal ninja, like you, Naruto. Shino explained himself to him, with Naruto chuckling at this one. It was obvious that your skills, abilities and jutsu were the product of not Kyuubi's influence of you, not completely, but of your personal trainings and determination. My clan and father understood that as well, but others seemed to have let their emotions and ignorance take a hold of them. I apologize for their illogical and irrational decision to banish you. Don be sorry, Shino. They had 7 years to think it over, and I knew that some clans wouldn't support this decision, either to keep a Jinchuriki like me in Konoha, or simply because of simple kindness, though I almost didn't believe in it at a time. Naruto admitted to Shino. So, who aside from Aburame clan, had voted against banishing me? Clan Hyuga. Lord Hiashi was quite passionate about how the village has been treating you with injustice. Naruto was honestly surprised at this one, before recalling his past and seeing the reasoning behind such actions. Apparently, you had in the past, aided him or Clan Hyuga in general, in some way. Also, he also had asked to take you under his wing, but was refused by the council. I remember. Didn't think that Lord Hiashi would be so grateful to me, even though it was nothing for me to do. Naruto uttered, more for himself than for Shino, before turning his full attention to Shino. Shino, what it going to be? Stand down, and I let you out of here. Stay and fight, then I have to apologize to Kurenai Oni-chan for hurting, and believe, I can and I will hurt you badly. Somehow, I incline to believe that statement. Shino said to Naruto, as he brought back his bugs. Very well, I stand down. However, are you certain you can break this barrier, especially considering that you are only a clone of real Naruto? The clone smirked at this one. Clever as always, Shino. The Crescent Dome barrier is a fine level 7 Fuinjutsu technique, no argument about it, but the other clones are already at work rewriting it to my needs. They shall be finished in a few moments by now, so I can safely escort you out of the combat zone, if you want to, Naruto's clone stated to him, with Shino nodding to him. Lead the way then, Shino said to the clone, who took the lead. By the way, there is something important you may want to hear. This mission, it wasn't sanctioned by Lady Hokage, but by the council body, without her permission or knowledge. In fact, I believe that by now, she must already be aware of this. I figured as much myself, but thank you for this information, Shino. Naruto's clone told to Shino with a small smile, while mentally already thinking. That explains why Ka-chan had suddenly went back on our agreement, that damn council, what in blazes did Tobirama Gigi thought about when he installed it? Was he drunk, or did he lose a bet like Hashirama Gigi? Anyway, I imagine Ka-chan is either destroying the council, or she and her honor guard with Shizune are already on their way here. Well, she knows our deal, so I am fully in my rights to deal with them all as I see fit. Alright team, we have managed to find our way to each other through our power of youth, with one of our youthful and courageous comrades here as well. Now, let us find the others and deal with this unyouthful demon known as Naruto. Might Guy shouted out, with Lee supporting him all the way through, while Tenten and Kiba shook their heads, whilst Neji was trying his hardest to see through the fog with his Byakugan, only getting a headache and sore eyes in the process. Now, Neji, tell us, where are all our other youthful companions? I can see anything through this damn fog. Neji said with a strained voice, as he deactivated his eyes, letting breaths of relief. This mist is filled with such strong and dense chakra, that it like I am looking at a sea of constantly shifting chakra. Whatever jutsu Naruto is using here, it not only blocks the vision and sound, but also is strongly effective against my Byakugan. We must count ourselves fortunate that we found each other in this mist. So wait, if neither your Byakugan, nor my and Akamaru senses can find the others, how the hell will we be able to get to the others, or find that Dobi? Kiba shouted out. Damn it, can believe that the dead last actually learned something. It probably just his fox helping him. Yes, for it is common fact that Naruto requires the Kyuubi chakra to be strong. And that is what makes him so unyouthful. Rock Lee supported this claim, with Neji shaking his head at this. No, this field is fully made of Naruto's own chakra. Neji retorted at this one, surprising everyone. But, to be able to make such strong mist and with such abilities, he must come a very long way as a shinobi. And if his reputation is anything to go by, we may be facing an enemy more dangerous than Itachi Uchiha and more powerful than Lady Hokage herself. Perhaps, we may better. Neji had wanted to continue his speech, but he was suddenly silenced, as his body fell down onto the ground, a senbon sticking out of his neck. Neji. Hold on, Tenten had wished to rush at his side, but she too hit the ground in the next second with another senbon in her neck, at the exact same spot as Neji causing Lee and Kiba to panic. What the hell is going on? How come Neji and Tenten are down in one shot like that? Kiba shouted out. Those senbons, they are probably laced with some kind of paralytic poison, designed to shut down the nervous system upon contact. Such poisons and senbons are used most frequently and undoubtedly by Kiri Anbu Black Ops, especially by their assassination units and Undertaker squad. Guy explained to them what had happened to Neji and Tenten, carefully looking around. And Naruto, being an unyouthful demon that he is, probably has picked up on such low techniques, whilst he was in Mizu. But do not worry, my fellow shinobi, for we have on our side the power of springtime youth. Guy shouted in full force, almost deafening everyone. I doubt it will be enough for you three here. Came a sudden comment, startling everyone, before a sound of metal piercing flesh and bones was heard, forcing everyone to turn to its source, causing the men to pale at the sight, with Kiba nearly losing his mind. Right before them laid Akamaru, the giant ninkin of Kiba, his eternal partner and best friend, among animals and humans. However, while normally a sight of the ninkin would been nothing out of ordinary, the hilt of katana sticking right from above his head, with blood coming from both the top of his head and from the bottom of his laying head was something that no one was looking for to seeing. And right at the top of the hilt, on one leg, casually stood Naruto looking at the horrified trio of men, his facial guard hiding most of his emotions, while his eyes were merely eyeing them. The sight of his killed ninkin was enough to send Kiba into a murderous rage. Akamaru, I kill you, you demon bastard. Kiba roared inhumanly, launching himself right at Naruto without any thought, and faster than Lee and Guy could stop him, still being horrified at the sight. However, had Kiba not been in such crazed rage and had learned to think with his head, or at least was more observant, he would seen that Naruto already had his second sword pulled out in his left hand. When Kiba had reached Naruto, the black-armored Ronin seemingly disappeared into a thick mist, leaving the top of the hilt. Before Kiba could sniff him out or hear him, a shadow descended upon him from above him. And in the next second, the shadow reached the ground. Just as Kiba had managed to look upwards, a shining thin trail was followed down to his body, a blade red with freshly spilled blood flashed upon the grass. Hana sends her regards, Kinslayer. Naruto whispered to Kiba, as his eyes widened, before blood splashed from a wound, beginning at the left side of his chest and ending at the right side of his hip, with the Inuzuka dropping dead upon the grass and joining his companion in afterlife purgatory. With a speed that even Lee could envy, Naruto quickly regained himself and drew his blade in his left hand for in a Hirazuki stance, already launching himself right towards his next target. Guy had managed to regain himself and used all of his speed to try and intercept Naruto. Sever Leaf Hurricane, he shouted out, as he tried to kick Naruto's face while he was in thrust. However, all that Guy had managed to hit was thin air, as Naruto disappeared in a flash of black and red, shocking Guy. And in the next second, just as Guy had landed, a loud shout of pain had come from his student, forcing Might Guy to look and freeze in one instance. Rock Lee stood, frozen in shock and pain, as blood ran down from his mouth. And behind him stood Naruto, whose blade had struck Lee in his spine and was buried deep enough to cause Lee immeasurable pain and be enough of a threat to completely immobilize him for life. Lee. Guy was ready to run to his student, but then Naruto spoke up, with a small medical kit being tossed right at his feet. Better think your next move, Guy, because it will decide whether all three of your students die here, or they will live. Naruto said to him in a cold and emotionless voice, causing Guy to freeze up. Those Senbons were laced in an extract, enough to kill even a healthy titan like you. The dose I used will kill Tenten and Neji in 5 minutes, unless you administer the antidote in that pouch I tossed within that time. And as for Lee, if you decide to fight me, he will lose his life in an instant. So, what shall it be, Guy, your students' lives, or a chance to kill the unyouthful demon? Naruto asked of Guy, who was shaking with rage, but also fear at the prospect of losing his students. Damn you, demon! Guy shouted at Naruto in tears, as his shaky hands picked up the medical kit and he immediately went to Neji and Tenten, hoping to save their lives. Wise choice. Now Lee will only lose his legs. Lee and Guy both froze at Naruto's words, as former shinobi of the leaf plunged his sword deeper into Lee's spine, before severing it, and with a cry of pain, Lee dropped onto the ground, unable to feel his legs anymore, as Naruto's blade had left his body. A horrified Guy looked at Naruto. Now we are even, Guy. And with that said, Naruto's clone dispelled himself, leaving Guy, in tears, shaking and in such great horror and rage, that no miracle of youth could potentially bring him back to his normal self. Kakashi-sensei, this missed, like, Sakura had tried to speak up, as she looked around herself, back to back with Sasuke and Kakashi Hatake. Yes, just like the one that Zabuza used during our first C-rank mission. Only this mist is even better, much better. Kakashi said, as his Sharingan worked around, trying to find anything in what seemed like a constantly shifting wall of chakra in front of him. This mist is layered with chakra on such level, that it completely blocks away vision, sounds, smells and even my Sharingan can see through it at all. Whatever technique Naruto used here, it makes Zabuza Karigakur look like child play. At least the Dobi had learned how to hide, like a weakling coward should. Sasuke scoffed, as his brought his hand onto his sword, looking around and trying to find Naruto. Come on, Dobi. What is the matter? Are you too afraid to even come face your old team? Well, if you don't come out, then I simply have to walk towards that home of yours and see what so interesting is there, that you they decided to stop us in our tracks out here. Who knows, maybe you have some poor whore of a wife that should be begging for an elite like me too. Wrong move, Tem. Suddenly, with a shock and terror for all, came a calm and collected voice of Naruto, right behind each of them, just like Zabuza had done on their mission in Wave Wind style. Renkuden. With that being said, Sasuke flew out of the formation with the speed of a bullet, being carried away by a compressed ball of air carrying him away. As Sakura stood frozen there in one place, Kakashi's instincts finally kicked in, as in flash of a second he pulled out a kunai, sending it in his hand backwards, fully intent on taking Naruto. Speed of the famous copy ninja was one of the highest in Konoha, behind only Sasuke, Itachi, Guy and Minato Namikaze at various points of time, and he would been successful in capturing Naruto in the transition between one stance to another. However, Naruto had seen the enemies with high speed and knew how to match them, especially considering that he had managed to not just equal but surpass his father's speed before he turned 20. One swift block with the back of his armored left hand stopped Kakashi in mid-flight, while Naruto's right palm swiftly reached Kakashi's left side of his head, his fingers glowing with green chakra. In a single swift motion, Naruto's fingers plunged into Kakashi's eye socket, and with a single pull, Naruto retrieved from Kakashi his most prized possession, his dead friend's Sharingan. Arg! Kakashi cried out in pain, as he had just had an eye removed from his head, dropping his kunai instinctively, trying to cover up his bleeding eye socket. With his hand freed, Naruto's left hand clenches into a fist, with chakra channeled in it, while his right arm moves out of the way. In the next instant, Naruto's left fist collides with Kakashi's head, cracking his skull and knocking him unconscious after his nerves had an overload of foreign chakra invading it. As Kakashi's body hit the ground, Naruto simply sealed it away in a special storage scroll that Naruto had kept for special occasions and items such as this one, now in his possession. As he had done that, Naruto's cold eyes landed upon shaking Sakura, who had managed to pull a kunai out of her pouch and took a stance to fight him, with Naruto scoffing, though the sound of it was muffled by his mask. Naruto, how could you do something so brutal to Kakashi's sensei? Sakura screeched in fear, as she was taking steps back, as Naruto was slowly making his way to her. Don't come any closer, why you monster. Sasuke-kun will kill you if you do something to me, you dead last. Why you are just jealous of Sasuke and everyone, so you decided that attacking USW will make us accept why you is equal. Well, guess again, loser, because, suddenly, Sakura heard a low, slightly throaty laugher coming from Naruto. First it was a little bit quiet, but steadily, it grew into a full-blown laughter, seemingly sound throughout the entirety of the forest, scaring Sakura even further, before Naruto spoke up to her. Oh, Sakura, do you think I give a damn about what you and the rest of that cavalcade of quirks, double standards and traitors think of me? Naruto asked of her seriously, with Sakura freezing in her tracks. I stopped caring for the most of you the day when I exiled from the village, and after I learned how warm and pompous was your greeting of my little brother, why do you think I would even want to go back to that hellhole? To once again become your punching bag, or so that Sasuke-chan would have someone to stab in the back, or chest in my case. After all, his own genins are nowhere to be now, Eren they. Naruto saw the look of shock and surprise on Sakura's face, as Naruto had clearly shown that he knew of what had happened with Sasuke's genin squad. Those genins died on a mission, when I intercepted Sasuke-kun and Sakura had tried to defend her love of life, before Naruto had spoken up again. Spare me the lies and excuses that guy told you all. Naruto simply said to her. I know all about that tragedy, since I been there myself. Flashback. A year and 7 months ago. Land of Grass. There had been many terrifying sights that Naruto had seen in his life as a shinobi and ronin on service of various kage, daimyo and feudal lords and etc. Mizu's civil war had provided him with plethora of horrifying and nightmarish sights and images that would be enough to drive mad with fear and dread even some of the toughest persons in shinobi world. Yet, to Naruto now, it all was just a part of his job back then, nothing more, and learned to not let it get to him. However, the sight he was seeing now was different from the others, for before Naruto laid not a field of shinobi skirmish, but what appeared to be a slaughterhouse. On a grassy plain laid 6 of Iwa-s shinobi, dead for about a couple of hours. Having worked with Iwa and their shinobi, Naruto was able to determine that these were Chunin shinobi, and a bit of pocketing around revealed that they were on a diplomatic mission to Daimyo of Grass. At first glance it seemed like they were all ambushed by someone laying in the waiting. Naruto's first picks were either Konoha or Kumo, as those two also competed for the alliance with Grass. And at first, Naruto's former guess was correct, as he noticed 2 dead Leaf shinobi, until his careful eye instantly examined them and what he found out first confused, and then horrified them. The 2 dead Konoha shinobi were not Chunin or Jonins, no. They were Genins, fresh and untested, clearly out of academy just recently or a year ago, no more or less. One of them was a black-haired boy in simple gray shirt and black pants, a civilian most likely, while the other was a girl with lavender short hair, pale eyes, dressed in a beige dress, black shorts and sandals, along with a curse mark hidden underneath her headband, showing her as a member of Hyuga branch family. They had backpacks on them with provisions, cloths and more, all signs of AC rank mission out of Land of Fire. However, what got to Naruto wasn't the fact that they were dead, but the character of their wounds. The Iwa-s shinobi were killed with brutality, stabbing wounds, burns and blackened skin, as well as distinct smell of ozone indicated the usages of sword, fire style and lightning style on them. Naruto's mind quickly came up with possible candidates on who could it be. Kakashi Hatake, known user of both elements and sword, but he no longer used one, and Sasuke Uchiha, a now Jonin of Konoha, known for using sword, fire and lightning, along with being merciless and brutal to enemies. Having kept an eye out for potentially dangerous shinobi, Naruto knew it was Sasuke that had done the deed here. And as for the Genins, the boy was seemingly the first to go down, as his throat was slashed by a sword, his face frozen in shock. The Hyuga girl was stabbed in the back with what looked like a jab, a clear sign of Chidori, when she tried to run away in fear, laying on the grass face first. However, there were still no solid proof that it was who Naruto thought it was, until his trained ears hadn't picked up a coughing sound. Rushing towards it at his full speed, Naruto ran underneath the closest tree in the field, where he found a young girl with light brown hair with green eyes, dressed in a simple dark green shirt and black pants, laying down, with a hand covering a large slashed wound on her stomach. Without any warning, Naruto went to her, speaking up to her. Don't worry, I am not going to hurt. He calmed the paled girl down, carefully moving her hand away from the wound and placing his own hand onto it, beginning to use the medical ninjutsu on her. It's going to be okay, I promise. I may not be on level of your Hokage, but such wounds are nothing new to me, so you LL be safe in a few minutes. Thank you, mister, she spoke up with a weak voice, with Naruto answering her. Hanzo. Hattori Hanzo. Naruto answered to her with a calm and soothing voice, applying his Iryo ninjutsu to heal her internal organs and start the regeneration of tissues. Whoever did this was clearly crying to kill you and he nearly did it. You must be very determined and strong to have lived. What your name, girl? Makoto Sarutobi. Makoto introduced herself, with Naruto looking carefully at her. I am from Konoha, my team, they. I am sorry, Miko-chan, but they are gone. Naruto could see that the girl didn't even have the strength to cry, having lost a great amount of blood. Miko-chan, I know this is very hard for you, but, I examined the battlefield and I know that it wasn't the Iowa shinobi that killed your friends. Can you tell me, who was it, and where is your Jonin sensei? The Iryo ninjutsu was working it deed on the girl and she was starting to become better and better, as the wound began to heal up completely and color was also returning to her. It was Sasuke sensei, ORJ Jonin sensei, Miko said with tears, with Naruto suppressing the growl at the sound of that name. We were on our way to Hidden Grass Village, delivering a message from Hokage, when we came across these shinobi of Iowa. They said they had no quarrel with us, and allowed to pass by without problem, but then Sasuke sensei just killed them all. It was so fast and brutal. Makoto winced from pain a little. Easy there, Miko-chan. Your organs are just starting to work again properly, you only need a lot of rest and some blood transfusion into your system and all will be alright with you. Naruto assured her, as he finally finished with healing. I know this is very hard for you, so let me guess. After he was done with Iowa shinobi, he turned against you, didn't he? Miko merely gave a weak nod to him. Why yes, first he killed Yoshikiri, then Nana when she tried to run, and then he caught up to me and, I don't understand, why he would do something like that. We were a team for a year now, he trained, cared for us, helped us all, and then, he only said that it was so that he could gain the true power of his Sharingan. Makoto broke down in tears, with Naruto carefully pulling her closer to himself, comforting the girl, while mentally he was raging like a demon. Sasuke, I always knew you would end up as worse scumbag than Itachi, but this. You are not just worse than scum, you are a cancerous tumor, a leech that feeds of the others and cares only for himself. And now, just so you could get that Mangekyo Sharingan of yours, you went and done this. Naruto's blue eyes for a second turned into ones of Kyuubi. I swear, upon the blood of those poor kids there, the next time we meet, you will pay for betraying them. Forget Itachi, forget Orochimaru and everyone else, you better be ready for me, because now I will send you to your grave with the rest of your clan. Flashback end. And believe me, I will make that bastard suffer for what he did to them. I can take trying to kill me, am used to it, but to betray your own pupils like that, now that makes me really mad. Naruto glared at Sasuke's fangirl, who was shaking in fear at the enormous amount of Ki being released by Naruto at this point. But first, I think LL indulge myself in repaying you for all the abuse you caused to me, Sakura-chan. Though Sakura didn't see it, she could sworn that Naruto had just smiled to her with a sadistic smile, one that even Anko Mitarashi would be proud of, as he began to menacingly make his way to her. Just as Naruto was about to snatch Sakura by her throat, his trained ear had caught on a distinct sound of birds. Chirping birds, and lots of them. As if 1,000 of them was chirping at the same time, the air catching a distinct odor of ozone, as the sound started to become closer and closer by the second. Recognizing the signs and wasting little to no time, Naruto pulled out one of the most essential and fundamental jutsu in history of shinobi. In the blink of an eye, Naruto used Kawarimi no Jutsu, and in the spot where he stood originally now stood Sakura, whose right shoulder was now pierced by an arm, which served as conduit for Chidori, with its user glaring at Naruto, who stood behind Sakura with a hateful look in his eyes. Without even a word, Sasuke pulled his hand out of Sakura's shoulder and pushed her away from his path, caring not in the slightest that he had just nearly killed her and now she was bleeding profoundly. His main focus now was upon the former block-headed blonde ninja, now turned raven-haired Ronin, who already laid his hand on his sheathed left sword. A free piece of advice, Tem, you want kill someone, make sure that they don't hear you. Why this Chidori is called an assassination technique is beyond me. Naruto commented, as Sasuke scowled, while Uzumaki looked at his traitor mark adorning his right side of face. I must admit, this little mark certainly suits you, Sasuke. A fitting mark for the filth of caliber, though it could use a second one. You call me, an Uchiha, filth? Sasuke arrogantly asked, as he pulled out his sword. Wherein you the one to substitute with this pink worthless whore here just now? And what makes you so much better than me? Well, I wouldn't call Sakura here entirely worthless, at least now that she proved to be useful for something. As for filth, considering my banishment, animosities, bias and etc., I believe I am more than justified in my actions, especially considering how you they just invaded my private land and threatened me, so I am fully entitled to using self-defense. Naruto calmly stated, but not letting go of his glare. And as for why I am better than you, I have done many, many terrible things, Sasuke. Some of them would make the little cleaning up of your clan look tame and innocent. Naruto caught a glimpse of hateful glare directed towards him. But everything that I had done was a part of my job, and all of those actions were either to fasten the ends of conflicts, save lives, prevent wars, or stop a brewing catastrophe. And I never during those missions had turned on my teammates, or more importantly, on the kids that were responsibility, unlike a certain Uchiha filth that stands before me. All that Naruto caught was a smirk of Sasuke, not even a glimpse of regret or sorrow, but pride and arrogance. So, that little bitch Makoto survived. I knew I should burned her with my new power, just to test it out, but I guess I was too sentimental. Sasuke closed his eyes, before opening them and revealing his new eyes, in a pattern of an atom, looking directly at Naruto. No matter. Once I am finished with you and whoever is in that house of yours, she taste my new power. You won get to her, I made sure of that, believe me. Naruto simply stated to Sasuke. Nor will you harm anyone in my home or anybody else for that matter, since I am finishing up what Itachi couldn't do. Naruto blasted off of his spot at his full speed, running towards Sasuke to cut him down. Don even dared to say his name, Dobi. Amaterasu. Sasuke's left eye bled, as he sent towards Naruto his most powerful jutsu, the flames of Amaterasu. Sasuke was already planning to celebrate his victory, when he saw a flash of black and red right before his flames had appeared and began to burn the empty soil, with steam appearing from the contact with the mist. Uchiha Avenger began to frantically look around himself, trying to find where Naruto really was, until his voice came from behind him. So, this is the infamous Amaterasu of Uchiha clan. Have to say, not so impressive as I had expected it to be. Sasuke turned around and saw Naruto simply standing there with calm posture and same look on his face. A fusion of Yinten with Kaden, creating a pseudo-Keke Toda known as Enten, or Inferno style. While achieving the creation of Enten itself is nothing short of a miracle and genius of highest praise, to find out that Amaterasu just spawns those flames like that is, kinda lame. Naruto commented, as Sasuke mentally sent his next blast of Amaterasu towards him, only for Naruto once again disappear from the view at the last second. Stop playing around and stand still, Dobi. You think your little advanced Shunshin will save your neck all the time? Sasuke called him out, looking around. You think that I am using Shunshin here? Sasuke, you honestly disappoint me, Naruto spoke up in a mocking tone of voice, staying away from his view. For a so-called genius from Uchiha clan, and favorite student of Kakashi Hatake, I would expect you to recognize the technique that had cost Izuna Uchiha his life at the hands of my ancestor, Tobirama Senju. So, you really do use Hiraishin no Jutsu. And did I hear you right? Did you just claim the second Hokage to be your ancestor? Sasuke snarled out, with a chuckle coming from Naruto. What is so funny, you worthless Dobi? Oh, I am just laughing at how blatantly ignorant and arrogant people can be, Sasuke. After all, it is common knowledge in Konoha now that Minato Namikaze is son of Tsunade Senju, granddaughter of Hashirama Senju and grandniece to Tobirama Senju. I am sure that everyone now and their dog knows about it in elemental nations, along with Menma Namikaze being his son, and Naruto Uzumaki, yours truly, being his older brother, from the same father and mother. Naruto explained in a mockingly teaching voice to Sasuke, further aggravating him. So you see, I am not only great-great-grandson of second Hokage, but also a direct descendant of first Hokage, his blood and bones. You know, it almost an irony. A Senju is facing against an Uchiha, just like during Sengoku Jidai. Your pathetic clan never stood a chance against the true might of Uchiha, the only reason we even allied with you was out of pity. Sasuke taunted Naruto. And Izuna Uchiha was obviously a weakling, to have lost to a Senju so blatantly. Then Madara Uchiha was even more of a weakling, having been defeated by my grandfather, while having the might of Kyuubi on his side and true Mangekyo Sharingan on his side. Naruto taunted back to Sasuke, who growled, while Naruto appeared right behind him. Now, Sasuke, let me demonstrate why Clan Senju was always the one to put your clan in its place. Sasuke already began to turn, but even his new and improved eyes were unable to see the full series of Naruto's hand seals. Enten. Kuroi Goen no Jutsu. And with that, right out of Naruto's now opened mouth right towards Sasuke flew out a concentrated stream of pure black fire, more intense than Amaterasu flames that Sasuke had used before. Being caught nearly off guard, Sasuke just barely had managed to pull out his most powerful defense and technique in his arsenal. A torso of giant skeleton of purple chakra began to form up, as it had enclosed Sasuke in a protective shell, with skin forming on top of bones and forming a layer of purple chakra around Sasuke, who had expected that whatever trick Naruto had pulled on him would easily be swept away by his ultimate weapon of Uchiha clan, Susanoo. But this time, Sasuke's luck ran thin, as Naruto's Enten hit the ethereal being with full force and began to drive him back and melted skin and even bones, shocking Sasuke, whose eyes were bleeding, all of his muscles and bones were near the breaking point from the sheer pressure of keeping up the Susanoo active. Yet, Naruto's Enten was proving its enormous strength and power, serving as the example and result of Naruto's most ambitious and probably one of the greatest feats achieving theorized by Tobirama Senju Enten and turning it into a reality. For Naruto and many, there was no mistake in saying that Tobirama Senju was an absolute genius in elemental manipulations and creation of jutsu of all calibers. Many now remember him only as Suiten user, but he really was a master of all 5 elements, being the same level as Hiruzen Sarutobi if not higher, and only outmatched by Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. He had created many powerful and feared jutsu, Hiraishin, Edo Tensei, shadow clones and etc. Yet his most ambitious project was left unfinished, which found its way to great library of Uzumaki and into hands of Naruto, who took it upon himself to make into reality. It took Naruto 4 years, over 2,000 shadow clones, the amount chakra equal to 5 tails from Kurama, along with her guidance, and countless failures to achieve the creation of Enten. The hardest part of creating Enten was finding the right, balanced and focused way to infuse Yinten, or yin release, with Kaden, fire release. And just achieving the usage of yin and yang releases on a consistent is considered a feat equal to that of Kage, and Naruto only managed to pull that off after 2 years of training with Kurama and unlocking his dormant Senju genetics, which held one of the greatest bloodline gifts in entire world and one of the main reasons why Senju clan was feared as the strongest long before Hashirama Senju was born. While most of shinobi are able to use up to 2, mostly 4 chakra natures later on in life, there is always the fact of 1 or 2 chakra natures being primary, more powerful, and others being secondary, less powerful. Members of Senju clan were inherently born with ability to use each of 5 elements as primary and could practice all 5 of them, mastering them and creating jutsu for each of them. And Naruto, just like Tsunade, his father, Tobirama and Hashirama, had that bloodline in him. And with the genetics of Senju came the innate usage of Yang style, which was much easier for Naruto to master. Yin style was like a complete opposite for him, but even so, he wouldn't be Naruto Uzumaki Senju had he not gained it too. And after that, it was a trial of tries, failures, calculations and precision. The end result ended up being Naruto using one of the most destructive natures in the world, which couldn't be stopped by water style, even combined with wind. This elemental nature was the one to put an end to Han and his rebels in Tenko Castle, when he had tried to take over Iwa no Kuni. And while Naruto possessed possibly the largest chakra reserves in all of lands, not counting for Biju, Enten was a very costly nature to use. Just the jutsu he uses now on Sasuke had sapped 1/10 of his full power, and this isn't even his most powerful Enten technique. Why did Naruto decide to use it here? He wanted to teach Sasuke Uchiha a lesson, before sending his burning soul out in hell. Sasuke Susanoo wasn't prepared to deal with a more powerful flame than his own Amaterasu and was quickly being destroyed away. Soon enough, Susanoo had started to disappear and the last wave of black flame caught up to Sasuke, blasting him and going through the mist, before going away at the command of Naruto, needing not for his flames to burn 7 days and nights, but to burn all and everything away. Walking towards Sasuke's burned up form, Naruto saw that his Enten had managed to burn away Sasuke's right arm to his elbow, with most of his right side now being covered in third-degree burns, with his right side of face also burned to the point of his eye being destroyed, hair gone and ugly scarred tissue appearing. And even then, despite suffering some of the worst burns a man could experience, Sasuke was still alive, though barely. Apparently, I underestimated the strength of Susanoo's armor. Now I see why even Tobirama feared this technique. Naruto thought to himself, while outwardly smiling at Sasuke in a mocking way. Well, look at the bright side now, Sasuke. With such abominable face, no girl will want to be anywhere near 100 meters of you, safe for Sakura, maybe. Naruto quipped darkly, as he unsheathed his sword and brought it upwards for the final strike, speaking seriously again. But you won live long enough enjoy the freedom from fangirls. Goodbye, Sasuke. And with that, Naruto let a scowl take place on his face as he sent the sword down upon kneeling and badly burned and injured Sasuke Uchiha. Sage Arts. Udama Rasengan. Naruto's eyes widened as he looked upwards and saw a big spiraling ball of chakra going down on him, sent upon him by Jiraiya, who had 2 small toads on shoulders, suddenly grew a beard and looked more like Toad than before. This time, Naruto had suffered from receiving the strike by Rasengan, growling in pain as felt the spinning sphere attacking him much greater effect than he had expected. For 3 seconds, Naruto had been pummeled into the ground with the spinning sphere trying to break him down, until he managed to look past the initial pain shock and flashed away from it. Once Jiraiya had hit the ground, Naruto had flashed back in his view, with the mist being sucked way into a special seal, a courtesy of Kushina Uzumaki, who took her stand near Jiraiya with her sword ready. Naruto let out a frustrated sigh, bordering with growl, as he spit out some blood and discarded the destroyed Shitagi over his armor, revealing his armored torso with a dented and damaged back plates yet holding strong. Looking at his godfather and mother, standing in protection of Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi, he thought to himself. So, Jiraiya has decided to pull out the Sage mode on me, though it looks incomplete. Still, had it not been for my armor, I would be dead. Naruto glanced at his mother, noticing her slightly shaking hands. The stance is one for attack, yet her intent has not been fully formed for battle. Does that woman really think that she can bring me back as her son? Anyway, looks like it's time to get serious myself here. Naruto, that s bloody enough, you moron. Jiraiya shouted at him. Can you see that we are trying to help you? And this is how you greet us? By attacking and killing your own friends. Your father must be turning in his grave at how you act towards your village. At this point, Naruto's control of emotions and years of repressed anger and fury got out, triggered by the seeming ignorance of these people. My village, Jiraiya, that damned place was a hellhole for me. People had tried to kill me, exploited me, and have taken away from me everything that I had. Naruto shouted out in clear anger at him and everyone else. Father, sisters, friends, childhood, and even my own memories were taken away from by you, that bastard of a Hokage, and this bitch that dares to call me her son. I put everything on the line for that hellhole, and how did it repay me? By banishing me for doing my duty. Sochi, please, I beg of you to stop. I know that Konoha and its people had hurt you, but you need to put it behind you and come back with me, your mother. Your family and friends, they are all willing and wanting you to come back and forgive it all. I want you to come back, Sochi, so please. Kushina had tried to plead to Naruto, but it was unsuccessful. You, who the hell do you think you are to ask anything of me? You abandoned me on the same day I was born, just because I had whiskers and you saw not my eyes, but the eyes of Kyuubi when it was sealed in me, unlike your precious little Menma. Naruto shouted back at his biological mother. Don't forget about that bounty you put on me as well. Had you really been my mother, you wouldn't see me as anything but your son, but no, and as for family and home, both are right here, where I stand to protect them, from you. Naruto positioned himself with his house scene right behind him, as he let his two katanas fall onto the ground, ready to summon his true weapon. Your family and home is Konoha and its people, Naruto, not some clueless girl you managed to hook up and pretend to marry. Jiraiya shouted out, with Naruto intensifying. We only done what was best for Konoha, always. Just like your grandfathers would done before Sarutobi sensei, and your father would done as well. You duty, no, your destiny is to be the shinobi of Konoha and live in there, to uphold the legacy your families have left for us. And we will make you uphold them, like it or not, and nothing will deter us from it. Now, stop being such a brat and come quietly, and maybe we LL put a good word for Tsunade after all that you have done here to your friends here. I LL even let you sign the Toad contract back and teach you sage arts with your brother. Yes, Naruto boy, come back to Konoha and let go of your anger for it. It time you looked past it and embraced your fate, as one of children of prophecies. The green small toad said directly to Naruto, sitting on Jiraiya's shoulder. You and your brother are destined to change this world, so embrace my fate, my destiny and duty. Naruto shouted at them, as his chakra began to become visible all over his body, without traces of Kyuubi's power included. Prophecies, fates, destinies and all this crap, they are for blind fools that are unable to see past their own nose and arrogant beliefs. In that village, my father, my grandfather and granduncle would rather kill themselves than see what it became. A cesspool of corruption, power-hungry civilians, eyeing up for only money, influence and led by their greed, with shinobi council warmongering ways, building up more and more power, thinking that it would keep the peace through enforcement, when in reality it will only unite those that fear and hate Konoha for its misdeeds. And on top it all off, hypocrisy, treachery, betrayal and sacrifice of its shinobi so that this atrocity known as Konoha could stand strong. That is not the will of fire that you preach. This is the will of darkness, where few sacrifice many for their own personal needs, like Danzo, Hiruzen, and that damned council, just to keep up the appearances. And you want me to go back there, to bring my family in there, the place that had taken away all I had and cared for. Think again. Zanjetsu. And with this shout, in Naruto's right arm appeared a sheathed long katana, with black handle without tsuba, which he immediately unsheathed, revealing black as night blade. Kushina looked shocked at that sword, instantly recognizing it, as Naruto swung it around and readied it for the fight. Sochi, How, Where did you get that sword? Do you know what sword is that? Kushina shouted at Naruto, who answered her. Zangetsu, the relic of Uzumaki clan and the sword of one of its founders, Masamune Senju. It was passed down to each head of the clan throughout generations, a symbol of true master of Uzumaki clan, with its last user being my grandfather, Shingen Uzumaki, the Tiger of Uzu. Kushina flinched at the mention of her father's name. You may claim that Menma is the head of Uzumaki clan in Konoha, but the true leader of Uzumaki is the one who holds this sword, and you know it, Uzumaki Kushina. And with this blade, I will uphold Uzumaki and Senju most sacred tenet. Stand by your family and protect it with your life, for it shall stand by you and protect you in return. Naruto, if you don't stand back, I use my full power to bring you down and beat you into your senses. Jiraiya warned him as he took his position. I knew that Sarutobi-sensei shouldn't have allowed you so many freedoms. You were always the weaker one of the twins, to fall under Kyuubi's influence like that. Sochi, it must be Kyuubi blinding you. Don listened to its words. It had corrupted and blinded Mito Ba-chan with its words, all just so it could gain control over its Jinchuriki, pretending to be a friend to its host. But I did not fall for it, nor did Menma, and I know you can be free of it too, just come with us. Kushina tried to reason with her son in hopes of getting her family back, but instead she saw how Naruto's chakra stated to become white and his hair were starting to move upwards. Enough talk with you two. This time, I'll be serious, so prepare yourselves, for this is my full power. The white aura around his body began to intensify and it looked like his hair was starting to become silver or white. Senju hidden jutsu. Me gotta know. Just as Naruto was ready to unleash his fullest power, suddenly in front of him, Kushina and Jiraiya appeared a massive wall made of the pink crystals, blocking the passage for both sides to engage. Naruto understood what this meant and discharged channeling his chakra, as he turned to his right, as did Jiraiya and Kushina, seeing 9 persons walking towards them, as the wall of crystals dispelled between them. In front of the group walked Tsunade Senju, the 5th Hokage and a very angered woman at the moment, followed by her student Shizune, holding Tauntaun in her hands, while flanked from left and right by Kurenai, Hinata, Shino, Enko Mitarashi and Azuki whom Naruto knew from times in Konoha, while the 2 that stood right at Tsunade's sides were also known and close to him, but he met them during his time as Ronin. The first one was a beautiful young woman in a green kimono with a white flower on its left side. She had black eyes and dark ashen-colored hair, tied up in a similar to Anko tail, but with 2 bangs on her sides of head. She once was Orochimaru's most deadly assassin and one of his most prized lieutenants, until 5 years ago she hadn't ran into one Naruto Uzumaki during his time in Mizu, where he managed to open up her eyes on Orochimaru and practically save her from under his thumb. After staying with him and helping him in ending the bloody civil war, she and another one of former Orochimaru's pets went to Konoha to begin a new life as Tsunade's personal guard and advisor against Orochimaru. Her name is Gurren, the holder of near-extinct Shoten, the crystal release. At Tsunade's left stood a young girl dressed in a dark red sleeveless dress, showing off her impressive figurine and reaching behind to her tailbone, while her flat stomach was open, with black shorts and black sandals, with a swirl symbol on her back. She had vibrant red long slightly spiky hair and red pupilless eyes, with glasses put on. She was someone whom Naruto found by sheer luck and possibly even providence, as she was one of the survivors of his mother's clan, Uzumaki, and a pureblood no less. Saving her from clutches of Orochimaru and showing her a way to become strong on her own, she embraced her new life in Konoha as the new apprentice of Tsunade Senju, as well as self-taught strongest sensor in Leaf and one of the top sealing experts in Hai no Kuni. Karen Uzumaki, a very distanced cousin to Naruto Uzumaki and one of his most loyal and closest friends, alongside Gurren, and one of the few Uzumaki that Naruto can count as his family. Seeing this entire group, Naruto couldn't help but smirk, as he sealed back his sword and put back his katanas, while Jiraiya and Kushina paled at the look of Tsunade and her honor guard, alongside with Kurenai, Hinata and Shino. Tsunade quickly accessed the situation and the status of Konoha as shinobi in here, scowling in rage at what must be transpired here. Without hesitation she summoned up Katsuyu and spoke up. Katsuyu, divide and get to everyone who is injured here and begin treating their wounds and injuries. Karen, Shizune, Hinata, I want you two to heal everyone who isn dead. Tsunade immediate ordered around without hesitation. At once, Lady Tsunade. Katsuyu immediately went into division, as the said kunoichi went to do their duties, whilst 5th Hokage turned to face the only standing members of this group. Tsunade, L look we see can explain this all, A and L look, there is Naruto. Alive and kicking, and hurting all of us here by being, Jiraiya had already turned off his sage mode, with both frogs going back to their home, when Tsunade had delivered a powerful punch in his gut, nearly destroying his stomach. Jiraiya, do you take me for a idiot? Not only did you, Kushina, Kakashi and all others go behind my back with this unsanctioned mission, but you even dared to defy the direct orders of your Hokage at not engaging Hanzo Hattori, at all costs. Tsunade picked Jiraiya by one hand and threw him onto the ground, before stomping onto his manhood, nearly destroying his balls. And Don T even tried to tell me what had gone down here. Shino, Kurenai and Hinata already informed about you effectively being ready to force Naruto back into village, without my knowledge or orders. He was well within his rights to defend himself here and his family too, so as far as I see it, this was an unsanctioned mission with you, Kushina and other senior jonin with everyone else here suffering for it. Karen, what s the status? Lady Tsunade, most of them are alive. Choji was in Genjutsu, while Shikamaru was placed into a paralysis through acupuncture, but I removed the Senbon from him accurately, so he LL make a full recovery soon. Ino has a cracked skull, several ribs broken and a concussion, but nothing beyond Katsuyu and our abilities. Asuma Sarutobi is seriously injured in torso and head, but Hinata and Shizune are working on him, so he will probably live. Tenten and Neji were put to sleep through a sleeping poison, which was laced upon Senbons. As for Lee, his spine has been severed, with a blade and surgical precision, so he won be able to walk, even with our assistance. Sasuke Uchiha has 3rd degrees burns, loss of arm below elbow, right eye and needs serious attention right now. Sakura has a stabbing wound in her shoulder from what appears to be Chidori, with Katsuyu and me on it, while Kakashi is missing a Sharingan and had his nervous system shut down. The only Kias are Kiba Inuzuka and his Ninken Akamaru. Karen quickly informed Tsunade of what she had gathered from Katsuyu and her own shadow clones that worked here already, while Anko, Kurenai and Yugao stood shocked at hearing it. Holy Kami, Gaki certainly didn't mess around, but to take down all of them alone, Naruto, just how strong did my little brother get without his sis? Anko thought to herself, looking at a new look of her surrogate brother. Damn, he was cute when he was little and blonde, but now, though I LL miss the whiskers, the black suits him damn well. Hell, he s grown into one hot damn walking lady killing machine right there. Anko admitted to herself with a healthy blush upon her face. Naruto, my little boy, if only I hadn't trusted Asuma and his father. I know I should be angry for Kiba, but I knew what crimes he committed, and I am sure you had your reasons to do what you had to, especially considering that you defended your home here. Kurenai with a tingle of sadness looked at her former adopted son. I hope we get to talk, if you really do remember me and Anko, you grown so much, I really wish I could done more to you. Naruto-kun, to think that a blonde helpless boy I had protected for such a long time had grown into such a strong and fine man, even though you crossed blades with my fellow shinobi, I understand that you were within your right to defend yourself and your home here. Yugao admitted mentally, looking at him. Not a trace of fatness, or scars of the past. You must Vei tried to put behind what Konoha has done to you, yet here it comes again in your life. I hope you can forgive those that deserve it, Naruto-kun. Asuma, Sakura and Sasuke are near death, Lee is crippled for good this time, and Kiba Inuzuka is dead. When I get back to Konoha, that damn council will better have their graves dug out, since this is the last time I am allowing them to send Konoha's sons and daughters to die like that. Tsunade raged on, taking a glance at Naruto. Naruto, as Hokage, I should be furious, but seeing what village has become, makes me only sad. Still, when it comes down to protecting Yusaka, Masamune and your wives, you aren't exactly to hold back, so I am actually surprised we have such low casualties, you must Vei known I would be on my way here. Tsunade, can you see? My Sochi is right over there and he refuses to. Kushina had tried to argue, but she was met with a death glare from her mother-in-law. Kushina, one word from that mouth of yours, and there will be one more KIA here. I Vei had it with your demands, Menma arrogance and with how you dishonor my son, may he rest in peace. Out of my sight, both of you. I deal with you later. Tsunade ordered them both, while she moved closer to Naruto, her features relaxing a little bit. Were you expecting me to arrive? Yup, which is why I had my shadow clones to overwrite the barrier. Naruto explained, relaxing himself, letting his anger go away. Well, the cat is out of the bag now, Ka-chan. And all it took just shy and kind Hinata to blurt it out, after seeing my chakra, just my luck. Hey, try and live with my luck, then tell me how it feels. Tsunade and Naruto shared a laugh at this one. How are Yusaka-chan and Masamune-kun? Are they healthy? Nothing is wrong. Do they have enough of healthy food? And Tsunade immediately went into her Ba-chan mode, as Matabi and Naruto like to call it. Yes, they are fine and well. Kura-chan makes sure that they eat only the healthiest and freshest of foods and vegetables. She takes it more seriously than me loving ramen. Naruto saw a smile appear on Tsunade's face. They are sleeping for now, but would you like to stay for the night? They will be happy to see you, and Yusaka especially has been missing her Ba-chan. We don't have enough room for all out here, but should have enough space for you, Kurenai, Anko, Karen and Gurren, but others. They manage, don't worry, Naruto. And yeah, I stay for the night. Tsunade agreed. In fact, there is something I would like to discuss with you and your wives, Naruto-kun. I remember the deal and my promise I have made to you all those years ago, but there is no sugar-coating something like that. I take it you have some kind of mission for me, Ka-chan. Naruto asked of her. Yeah, and not just any kind of mission, Sochi. Tsunade said to him with a breath. I need you to come back to Konoha with me to save it. You sure aren't sugar-coating it, Ka-chan. Naruto responded to Tsunade, letting out a sigh, rubbing his eyes, thinking over it all. Tsunade, said woman already knew, that whenever her grandson would address her on the first name basis, it would mean he was absolutely serious with her. You and I have made a deal to which both of us have agreed upon. You will keep Konoha, it council, Shinobi and Danzo with his root off my back, and should they come at me, I have full right to respond with lethal force if needed be. In return, I will take missions from you, the kind of missions that you wouldn't like to send your men and not get Konoha involved directly. Like with sabotaging Orochimaru's supplies, killing off his supporters and even the feudal lord that allowed him to build his hidden village in Oto no Kuni. So far, this deal worked well and neither of us had any complaints. So, don't mind me asking, what has suddenly changed, and why should I return to Konoha, Tsunade? Now it was Tsunade's turn to let out a sigh, as she knew that Naruto was correct and right on point in this one. She didn't want Naruto to return to the place that had nearly killed him, especially now that he had family, but as the fifth Hokage, Tsunade had the responsibility of keeping the people in village safe, even if the population itself seemed to be not so worthy of that. For this reason, 4 years ago, after the name of Hanzo Hattori became known worldwide, with Tsunade and Shizune knowing of his true identity, Tsunade has decided to make a deal with Naruto. The deal was simple enough, yet in later years it has proven to be extremely valuable and even essential at some point for Konoha. Naruto would take on missions from Tsunade, via Katsuyu, to deal with threats for Konoha, while Tsunade in return will not only keep Konoha off his back, but also pay him money, good money. Naruto has had every reason to turn it down, especially considering his hatred at the time for Konoha and its people, but, much to her own surprise and shock, Naruto accepted the deal. When she asked of him why, he simply stated to Tsunade that, there are more dangerous and vile creatures and people than those that live in Konoha, like one still breathing and seething in Oto. If taking them out of the game means making this world a little better for others, I game. That statement, as well as the tone at which Naruto spoke about it in Konoha showed Tsunade just how much more mature and grown up he has become, along with the fact that while he has not let go of his hatred of Konoha, he didn't allow it to become his main living motivator and driving force. He may been resentful towards Konoha, but Naruto now understood, after Mizu, that there are people that only want to see the world burn for their own amusement, and the fact that many of them were eyeing up Konoha as their target, was merely a side effect. And that is how the deal worked, with Naruto hunting down people, organizations, Orochimaru's forces and other hidden enemies and taking them down, one by one, swiftly and mercilessly. He never took any contracts that meant harming other nations and their hidden villages, like with Kumo or Iwa, as Naruto would only deal with those threats that posed immediate danger not just to Konoha, but other nations as well. However, while the deal has ensured that Naruto would keep Konoha safe from its threats, that didn't mean he was on Konoha's side when it tried to play dirty and stab friends in the back. The mission in River Country is the prime example of what Naruto was ready to do if Konoha were to play the aggressor. 18 Chunin and 9 Jonin dead, all are battle-hardened veterans, all had survived the invasion of Suna and Oto and some were elite veterans of Third Shinobi War. And Naruto slaughtered them, having been asked by Gaara to guard him on his way to Iwa, and as a result, when those shinobi had tried to assassinate the Kazekage, Naruto personally dealt with them. Tsunade has had a field day, trying to explain first to Fire Daimyo, then to River Daimyo, what a military-sized shinobi company was doing in River Country. Next was a backlash from Suna, which nearly led to next shinobi war, and it was followed by Tsunade practically demolishing the Council of Konoha, as she learned how they were the ones to assign those shinobi to this mission, behind Tsunade's back in her knowledge, just like now. It seemed to them, like Tsunade was now nothing more but a figurehead, not even worthy of a role of a puppet, and that they could run Konoha as they all pleased. Well, they picked the wrong Hokage to mess with, as Tsunade wasn't the third Hokage, but the fifth one, and she has had enough of seeing the village her whole family had defended, built and let grow, become nothing more but a blood vessel for all those leeches to suck from. No, Tsunade has had enough of Konoha's degradation and it was time to save it. When the forest grows to wild, a purging fire is inevitable and natural to happen, as Uncle Tobirama had once told her. And Tsunade's fire was Naruto. I remember our deal well, Naruto, and there is nothing wrong with it. However, even though your work has kept Konoha from being destroyed several times over, its end is still drawing near. And I mean not from the outside, Tsunade saw how Naruto picked this one up. But from the inside, Naruto glanced over Tsunade's shoulder, seeing his former friends and comrades, defeated and laying in the mud, while Karen, Hinata, Shizune and Katsuyu were working on them. I think this is best to discuss inside my house. You can bring your guard with you, Ka-chan, but not any of the unwanted guests. They are free to stay here for the night, but if anyone tries to come inside the house without my say-so, then Kiba will have some company on his way to hell. Fine by me. Anko, Kurenai, you are with me. Gurren, Yugao, take the defensive posts around here, make sure that those idiots don't try anything stupid. Karen, Shizune, Hinata, once you are finished here, you are welcomed in as well. Tsunade commanded right ahead, with Kurenai and Anko all eager and glad to come along, while Yugao and Gurren gave affirmative nods to this one. Hey, and what about us too? Naruto, Eren you going to invite us in? We are the closest people you they got. Jiraiya shouted in indignation, as he and Kushina moved to intercept the pair. At least let us stay for the night. We they been on the move for full 2 days from Konoha to here, for crying out loud. Naruto-kun, I know that we they started out on the wrong note, but if you can just let me talk to you, I am sure you will understand that I am. Kushina had tried to speak up, but Naruto didn't want to listen to either of the two. You they barged in on my private land, insulted me, my family and tried to force me to go with you, and now you want to come in my home for some tea and cakes. Had it not been for my real Ka-chan here, I would they sent you home in body bags. Naruto coldly stated, with Jiraiya fuming at what he said to him, which didn't escape Naruto. Fume and steam all you want, Jiraiya, but even your incomplete sage mode wouldn't have saved you. So, you know that it was sage mode, huh? Then, if you know about it, Gaki, you should also know just how much more power it gives people, right? Jiraiya asked in low and threatening voice of Naruto, who merely nodded to it. I they already hit you with my Rasengan once here, so you should know of it s awesome power. What would you, a banished shame of 4th Hokage, have to counter that? Senju hidden jutsu. Me gotta know whatever it was, huh? At a mere mentioning of it, Tsunade stiffened up and her eyes widened at shock. Naruto was going to use Migata no Gokui. If he were able to recreate that jutsu, then not even Jiraiya in a full sage mode would be able to stop Naruto, along with Kushina. Hell, even Madara Uchiha had struggled against it when Uncle Tobirama used it. Tsunade thought to herself, as she looked between Naruto and Jiraiya, with Naruto finally giving his answer. It was one option I was willing to use against you, old frog. Naruto simply said to him coldly. The second one, have you asked yourself, how was I able to teleport away on various distances, without any visible markers or kunai with marks like my father had used? That got both Jiraiya and Kushina thinking for a bit, before Kushina looked around the place for a bit, her careful eye examining the land around her, before she widened her eyes in shock and surprise. This is, Kushina turned to see her son, and noticed the smallest of smirks upon his lips. Sochi, how did you? Even Minato-kun wasn't able to. He wasn't able to make it into the reality because he simply didn't have time to draw the needed ceiling inscriptions. My father was a genius when it came down to Fuinjutsu, and he already had the theory worked out, I only needed to make it into reality. Naruto simply stated, surprising Kushina. And it is Naruto-san or Naruto, Kushina, not Sochi. You long have lost the right to call me that way. Kushina, what are you two talking about? Jiraiya asked of her. Of Minato-s last work in Fuinjutsu, Takamagahara. Kushina said in half-whisper, with Jiraiya not getting this one. Minato-s prowess with Hiraishin may been great, but he wanted to find a way to teleport within a specific area without any markers, in any particular spot or place, even those that were not marked. He never explained the details to me, but all he said is that involved the usage of barrier Fuinjutsu and Hiraishin s formula somehow. This is what he meant by it all. A barrier part for creating a covered area, while Hiraishin is to teleport anywhere within the said area. The complexity of combining the two completely separate seals is on an incredible level, and to make it work, Naruto, how did you do it? Trade secret, and like I said, father had done the entire job, I merely put it to practice. Naruto simply stated, you were well within Takamagahara, and I could easily killed you all within a time span of half a minute, considering that I had known where all of you were all the time. The single reason as to how you got a drop on me is because of my own carelessness and occupation with Sasuke. Next time, I make sure to target the most dangerous ones first. Naruto stated to both of them clearly. And I do not want to see you anywhere close to my home, so for your own health, stay away, or I will know about. Naruto stated clearly to them both, as he, Tsunade, Kurenai and Anko moved right ahead to Naruto's house. Wow, Gaki, not only did you get bigger, but it looks like you grown some pretty big balls too along the way. Anko laughed, getting glares from both Kurenai and Tsunade, while Naruto simply chuckled up at this one. Though, if I recall correctly, you were always ballsy like hell, even back in the good old days of your Chunin exams, remember? Yeah, though back then I was much dumber, shorter, wore a kill me orange jumpsuit, had little to no skill speak of, and had the mordacity of forgetting the sweet taste of good dango and my favorite hubby Nei-chan that introduced me to it. Naruto said with a smile to Anko, as she froze in place at hearing it all, while Naruto turned around to face her. I must admit, Nei-chan, how the hell you didn't kill me when you saw me in that orange monstrosity is beyond me. After all, wherein your words are, if I ever catch you eating dango without me, pulling pranks without letting me know, or wearing orange, I am gonna string you up with my snakes biting off your balls, Gaki. And as far as I and a few specific persons know, that part of my body is still with me. Hubby Nei-chan, Gaki. Anko's mind immediately rebooted back, and with tears and smiles she launched herself right into Naruto's arms, crying out loud and not caring for ruining her tough as hell bitch reputation she made herself, for now it didn't matter to Anko. What really mattered to her was the fact that Naruto, her surrogate little brother and closest thing she ever had for a family, has remembered her. Anko may always been one of the hardest persons to get around with and to make friends with, but she wasn't one without feelings, far from it. Her best friend, Kurenai, was the prime example of Anko being a human being, and when Kurenai had taken from the streets, Naruto, who at the time looked worse than dead, covered in blood, bruises, injuries, malnourished and half dead, Anko took an instant liking to Kurenai's adopted son, almost immediately becoming extremely protective of him and spending time with him whenever she had the chance. Though to some it may seem like Anko would be the worst possible sister material, to Naruto she was the best big sister ever, his closest, after Kurenai, person. Anko took caring after Naruto more seriously than even her duties as a shinobi, though not to a detriment of her work. Whenever Kurenai was out on missions, Anko would be the one looking after the blonde bundle of energy, and during the time that Naruto had stayed with Kurenai, any civilian or shinobi had dared to even glare at him, would have to deal with a very, very pissed off Anko Mitarashi, as she would not forgive or forget anyone who would hurt her little brother. Anko didn't spare any affections or her money on him, buying him cloths, gifts on birthday or simply on random days, taking him out to Dango restaurant and even to Forest of Death, though the last one had earned her a deaf ear after a 5-hour lecture that Kurenai had given to her. But overall, Anko loved Naruto like her own flesh and blood and he loved her back as his big sister. So when Anko had seen Asuma with his blades bearing down on Naruto, with the blonde already wounded from his shoulder to tailbone, Anko snapped, and she snapped very hard. It was the only time that Anko had willingly activated the curse mark Orochimaru had given to her, and even though she swore never to use it, that time she didn't care about it. Her little brother was about to be killed by a bastard of a son of Hokage. Anko nearly killed Asuma back then, had she not been stopped by Anbu, who appeared when Naruto suddenly flared up Kyuubi-S chakra, a response in an effort of protecting his sister. And after that, it was a nightmare for Anko. Naruto-S memories of Kurenai and Anko, along with this incident, were sealed away. Asuma didn't get punished, and Anko was forced to keep quiet about Asuma-S attempt at Naruto-S life. Had she told Kurenai or anyone else about it, Hokage made it clear as day to her that Anko would be sentenced to death, along with Kurenai. And so, Anko kept quiet, even when Kurenai and Asuma began dating, though she did try to dissuade her from it, but proved ineffective, as Kurenai herself was torn and broken after losing Naruto and sought comfort. Too bad it was comfort in the arms of the most despicable man in Konoha, in Anko-S eyes. And as for Naruto, she and Kurenai had tried to look after him from afar, but they were given a clear as glass order: stay away from Naruto, or face the tribunal and death on charges of treason and putting the village in harm-S way. The girls may been always loyal, but that order, it took everything from both Kurenai and Anko not to betray the village and simply kidnap Naruto away from the place. Forced to see him grow up alone, no friends, hated and beaten by the village, and then thrown away like trash, Anko nearly defected from the village, only stopped by Kurenai, who nearly killed herself from grief. She stayed only for her surrogate sister, and when Kushina returned and revealed to everyone the truth about Naruto and how she abandoned him, Anko and Kurenai had went as far as to confront the wife of their deceased Hokage, lashing out and nearly killing her in the process. After the news of Naruto-S death reached them, Anko and Kurenai had thought they were stabbed into hearts. They mourned his death for 2 long years, and it was a living hell, being in Konoha and serving the people that had sent him to his death. It was only because of 5th Hokage-S personal persuasion that the two didn't quit being shinobi, saying that Naruto wouldn't want them both to suffer because of him, and that he would want them both to live if not for this village, then so that he wouldn't be forced to cry for them if they died because of him. It worked, and Anko with Kurenai stayed shinobi, with Anko becoming a member of Hokage-S personal honor guard, and Kurenai continuing on with her career. And now, Anko was literally crying happy tears on her brother-S shoulder. My sweet little Gaki finally remembered his hubby Nei-chan. I am so happy awa. Anko cried loudly, literally running rivers of tears from her eyes, while Naruto held her in a hug. Anko, stop crying now. You are a Jonin, not a 5-year-old girl that got her toy back. Tsunade admonished in a semi-serious way. I don't care. My sweet little Gaki finally remembered me, and I am so happy that I can stop crying, so shut up awa. Anko answered through her tears, before separated from Naruto with tears still running down and a quivering lip. How could you not let me and Nei-chan know that you remembered us? And why did you fake your death, you baka? Do you know how sad we both were? Don you love your Nei-chan? Anko demanded to know through her tears, with Tsunade having sweat dropped at this one, while Kurenai simply chuckled at this one, but she herself was silently crying out of happiness. And no, of course I love you and Kurenai Oni-chan very much, but, okay, how about this? I treat you to free dango for the rest of your life, plus you get to meet your niece and nephew, plus I tell you how did I manage to pull that one prank on Anbu on your birthday, as an apology. If Naruto had learned anything about taming a wild Anko Mitarashi, then it that you need to remember 4 things: dango, family, free of charge and pranks. Anko-S mind immediately caught on to the key words heard in the sentence, and her tears instantly ceased and she grinned in her usual way and immediately agreed. Deal. You are forgiven. Anko instantly declared, before her mind caught on to something. Wait, niece, nephew, both her and Kurenai-S eyes widened to the size of the saucers at the realization of what they heard. Naruto-kun, you mean, you have KK kids? Kurenai asked in a shocked way, with Naruto nodding to this. Yes, I do. Yusaka and Masamune, a girl of 4 and a boy of 3, born from the 2 out 3 wives I love. And both are eager to meet you too. Naruto said with a smile to them. Awa! My little Gaki has lost his V card and even has his own 2 little Gaki. Why I wasn't there and wait a flipping second, wives. Anko shouted out loud, nearly making Naruto deaf at this one. Naruto, A is in, more than one. Kurenai asked herself, with Naruto slowly nodding at this one, before Kurenai blinked at this one, processing it. I don't even know, I know that polygamy is not prohibited, but to have 3 wives, Naruto, maybe we should have a talk about. Ha! I bloody knew it. Anko shouted out proudly. I knew that no girl will be enough for you, but to get 3 wives, oh ho, Gaki, I need the details, and I want them now. Anko demanded of him. Did they take turns with you, or you prefer to do it all in one time? Did they have preferred positions, or like to alternate? Did they also do each other while you are? Anko's mind was already running wild with thoughts and images, but Naruto stopped her. Anko, no offense, but you are starting to sound like Jiraiya. Anko immediately stopped for a second in her ramblings, before huffing. Hey, can ta big sis show interest in her little brother private activities? She asked of him innocently, before a wicked smile came upon her face. And you know, your big, and beautiful big sister wouldn't mind teaching you and your girls a couple of special moves in art of extreme close horizontal taijutsu. Naruto, even with all the built-in self-control, couldn't contain the blush. Oh, looks like you are interested. Lady Tsunade, if you do not mind me asking, why did you allow Naruto to marry 3 girls at the same time? Kurenai asked of Tsunade, while Naruto was dealing with Anko, with Sanin turning her head to Kurenai in surprise. Was there a reason I shouldn't have? I mean, sure, it's not a very common practice and most people nowadays don't like to see this type of relations and I was pretty confused myself at first, but it's nothing too wrong for my eye. If anything, our former blonde Gaki here can be too much of a hassle to contain for just one girl, and with his 3 wives, I know he is in very good and loving hands. Tsunade simply stated. What made you think I was against it, Kurenai? Well, I mean, I thought that, given your experience and age, I would assume you were more of a traditional type of woman and. Yuahi, did I just hear a comment about my real age, didn't ti? And what is this about, traditional type of woman, stuff? Are you implying that I am a wrinkled old crone, like that dust bag Kaharu? Tsunade unleashes a large amount of ki, making Kurenai immediately pale and scared for her life. No, of course not, Lady Tsunade. You are a woman at a peak of her beauty and spirit, I just meant that. Kurenai began to respond in panic, before Tsunade spoke up again. Ah, forget it. Come on. I been on the move all day and I haven't even eaten yet, and I really want to see my cute little grandkids, so move it. Tsunade commanded to the entire group, as she led the way to the house, with Anko separating from Naruto, who now was closer to Kurenai, speaking up to her. Anyway, I can apologize to you for what I did, Oni-chan. Naruto asked of her calmly, with Kurenai simply coming closer to him and hugging him tightly. Now you are forgiven, Naru-kun. Kurenai said to him, feeling her surrogate son, little brother hugging her tightly. How you grown, you were such a cute little boy, and now, Naru-kun, forgive me, I. Hey, it's alright, Oni-chan. I know, and I understand what you and Anko-ne-chan had to go through. I only wish that I was there for both of you, Naruto simply said with sadness in his voice, with Kurenai smiling to him, before separating from him. Looks like I have to work on Gatatsu more. Should gone for the heart to be certain, Naruto admonished himself. I am sure you have your chance, but I would prefer to get my own swing at that bastard's neck. Kurenai joked a little, with Naruto chuckling. Naruto, about Tsunade's proposal, do you at least consider it? I know and understand how much Konoha had hurt you, but there really are people that miss you dearly. Iruka, Konohamaru, Shizune, Yugao, Tsuki and Ayame, not to mention Lady Hokage, me and Anko. All of us miss you deeply. Oni-chan, while I resent everything there is in Konoha and hate it, and there was a time that hatred for it nearly cost me all that I had, Naruto shuddered at mentioning of the time when he was too deep in his own hatred. Am willing to listen to Ka-chan and what she has in mind, and maybe LL even go with her. They had over 7 years to grow up and learn to put aside anger and fury for the betterment of mission and others. However, what I am really worried about is not me, but my family. You know how cruel and horrible that place can be, Oni-chan, and do you think that I want my children and my beloved wives to be there, among wolves, vipers and hawks, all eyeing them up in hopes of striking at them? I see where you are coming from, Naru-kun. Kurenai understood him well. Don T worry, Sochi, they got that front covered for you. Tsunade said to Naruto, as they were beginning to approach the house, with Naruto up his brow. Should you accept my proposal, you and your entire family will not be considered as part of Konoha, no. Rather, you will be considered as personal help, sent to us by Fire Daimyo. And if you, kids or your wives were to be attacked, harassed or in any other way harmed, you will be in full right to execute those that harmed you in any way. No worries about paperwork, they got it covered for you. All I need is your signature and all is done. You know that I will ask you, how the hell did you get the Fire Daimyo to agree to this? I know that previous Daimyo owed you for helping to deliver his daughter, the current Daimyo, but even so, I doubt there is a way she would agree with this one. Naruto admitted. The truth of the matter is that our current daimyo is actually in pretty bad mood because of Konoha and how it has been handling itself. Specifically, she is in a very foul mood for the council and wishes to deal with the corruption and villainy as soon as possible. As you can imagine, Konoha's aggressiveness towards others have caused other countries alienate from Hai no Kuni. Tsunade saw Naruto nod to this one. Konoha, specifically its council, have been acting far more in accord to their own desires and wishes, instead of a path that daimyo and Hokage enforce. As you can surmise, such disrespect and avid independence in actions can be seen as a sign of rebellion, which could possibly grow into a civil war within Hai no Kuni, plunging the country into chaos and allowing other countries to invade. And not just their hidden villages, but armies of samurai, Ashigaru and feudal lords as well will be part of that. An all-out war, Naruto grimly stated, understanding very well the consequences of Konoha's actions. Hai no Kuni would be divided into 2 camps, fighting each other, while other countries invade and destroy the weakened sides, claiming the land, people, resources and everything in between for themselves. That could been the reality for Mizu no Kuni, had it not been so far offshore of the mainland and the fact of other countries not having big enough fleets for transporting troops, otherwise Ieyasu and his forces wouldn't have been able to end the war. Glad to see that you two understand what is at stake. And while our daimyo is in support of my plan, you personally were recommended by your old friend and current daimyo of Mizu, Ieyasu Tokugawa. Naruto was surprised to hear that one. Apparently, daimyos of Hai and Mizu are cousins, or distant relatives, so they are pretty close friends with each other, or something like that. Yeah, now I remember. Hai no Kuni daimyo's clan is Matsudera, while Tokugawa clan was a side branch of Matsudera, who had immigrated from Hai to Mizu and established themselves in Mikawa. Almost like with Senju and Uzumaki. Naruto noted out, as the group stopped right in front of the house, noticing a powerful ceiling barrier put around it. Kurama, it me. The danger has passed, so could you please put down the barrier? Naruto mentally asked of his first wife. I still have a link with you, so I heard and saw it all, Naru-kun. It'll be down in a second, but I do warn you, if I smell that red-haired banshee anywhere near our home, I'll bijudama here into oblivion. Kurama mentally responded to her husband, with the barrier going down instantly. And just so you know, I really don't like hearing about going back to Konoha. Let s get inside, and I'll introduce you two to my family. Just so you know, kids are asleep, so don't go around making noise, Yusaka has a very light sleep. Naruto warned them, with Anko immediately coming up with a quip. Really? Then how you and your ladies get to practice your horizontal taijutsu, or are you starting their education early on? Anko immediately gotten glares from both Tsunade and Kurenai, while Naruto calmly answered. No, Nei-chan. A good old silencing seal placed in room, and the only thing you need to worry about is not breaking the bed, or the wall, like that one time. Naruto simply replied, with Anko letting out a wolf whistle, with Naruto opening up the door and going inside with everyone. Gaki, am officially proud of you and can die in peace, knowing that my cute little brother knows what a real is. By the way, was it an angry, or were you two just so fired up that you couldn't keep till getting into bed? Anko honestly asked of him, ignoring the glares. Not exactly, more of a in a heat of the motion, if you wonder. Naruto only replied, with Anko giving him a thumbs up, as she and other ladies entered the house, with Kurama, Yugito and Matabi already waiting for them, with Kurenai and Anko eyeing them up with curiosity. So, they are Naruto love wives, Kurenai corrected herself, looking curiously at each of them. The redhead seems to be the oldest of them, and she looks a lot like Mito Uzumaki, maybe an Uzumaki by blood. She seems kind enough, but there that air of power and dignity around her, yet when she looks at Naruto, all I see is deep love and devotion. The blonde girl is also older than Naruto, but she definitely a kunoichi, with years of experience and a strong one at that. One hand is near the holster, and the other one is seemingly away from weapons, but she could be ready to cast up one-handed signs. She must be a protective type. And the last one, she seems like a wild tigress, ready to pounce and tear me apart from that look, yet one glance at Naruto, and she seems like a domesticated cat, waiting for the master to pet her. What an interesting little harem you made yourself, Naru-kun. Well, so this is Naru-kun ladies, huh? Anko looked with a not-so-hidden curiosity and sultry smirk. So, the redhead here seems to be the type for more traditional and one-on-one type of action, but you never really know with redheads, plus always the quite ones that are the most wicked in bed, and I can bet she packing quite the set underneath that kimono. The blondie here seems to have less in and rear department than the two, but what a fine piece of legs, and I would bet my dango that she is one for athletics. And if so, then Naru-kun certainly doesn't need to worry about things getting stale for certain. And the brunette, whoa, not only is she packing quite the sets, but she is most definitely a wild one. No messing around, straightforward hardcore till the bed is broken and you are sore in all places. So he got a traditional Miko, with possibly a closet aptitude for kinky stuff, an agile kunoichi with flexibility, which goes well with reach of Naruto, from where I see it, and finally, a wild bombshell-like little old me here, Naruto, I am so proud of you and jealous of them that I could just kiss and, wait a minute, Anko, are you? Lady Tsunade, we weren't expecting you this early in the month. Kurama was the first one to speak up, feinting a genuine surprise. You could at least sent Katsuyu beforehand, we could at least cooked you up something good, plus Yusaka and Masamune. Ah, don sweat it all, Kura-chan. I was here on official business, dealing with all the, Tsunade shut herself, before she would curse up, making Anko raise an eyebrow. Kura-chan, are Ya-chan and Ma-kun asleep and in their rooms? Tsunade asked with a whisper, with all three girls nodding. They are. Plus I put up sound suppressing seals, not wanting the ruckus to wake up Yusaka and Masamune. Kurama said with a smile, with Tsunade letting out a relieved sigh. Phew, that s good to know. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. So, me and my honor guard here got her like we're on bloody fire, dealing with those nut-brained idiots sent here by those goddamned counselors just to get Naruto here, and now I nearly had another sizable chunk of Konoha s forces sent to Shinigami for dinner because of those counselors being so goddamn prickly proud and shit, and on top it all off, I haven't t bloody eaten in a whole day. Tsunade let it all out in one go shout, before catching the breath, with Kurama, Yugito and Matabi just standing there unfazed, while Kurenai and Anko looked surprised. Ah, I needed that. Sorry about it, girls. Nah, s alright. Compared to when Kurenai-chan gets all hotly and angry about stuff, you are pretty manageable and easy to handle. Plus you don t break limbs when someone s pissing you off. Mata laughed at that one, with Kurama shooting her a glare, while Kurenai and Anko looked even more surprised. Wait, did our Hokage just check if she could safely curse? Anko asked surprised, with Naruto nodding to this one. When the hell did that happen? Since when does Tsunade Senju needs to check if she s safe to curse? Since because I don t want our children to grow up into delinquents and I want them to have proper upbringing, and if I catch you, Mitarashi-san, cursing in any manner within an earshot of my daughter or Ma-kun, I will make sure you very, very sorry you had cursed. I hope I make myself clear. Kurama said with a harshly cold, steel voice, rolling with such amount of ki, that even Orochimaru would be sweating bullets, with Anko paling and shaking in fear at it. Shit, this lady isn t just talk, but full on business too. I don t know who in the world she is, but I better not piss her off. Anko instantly decided and rapidly nodded. Oh of course, not abb bad word while around the kids, why you got it. I am generally great with kids, never say a bad word while near m. Well, on this one, I can actually vouch for her. Anko can be loud, full-mouthed, has manners worse than a sailor, but with kids, she s the most trustworthy person you can find. I would know, since I ve left Naru-kun with her more times than I can count, not that I didn't t care about him, I just, Kurenai immediately realized the form of what she said and wanted to clarify it, but Yugito stopped her. We know, Kurenai-san, and all three of us here would like to thank you too for taking care of our husband here for us. Yugito, Kurama and Matabi bowed before the two girls. We are in your debt and very grateful to you for being there for our Naruto-kun. Both Anko and Kurenai looked stunned, before looking at Naruto for a second. Don t worry, they know all the truth and everything, including about the Kyuubi and me. On this one Naruto lied to both of his sisters, while Kurama mentally chuckled through their link. I they got no secrets from my family, and we trust each other. Yeah, we know all about Naru-kun s big bad foxy sitting in his stomach. Matabi said easily, waving it off. Oh, we didn't t even introduce ourselves to ya. Sorry about that, I m Matabi, or Mata, if you like for friends, but you are totally a family, so call me Mata-chan. The beautiful blondie, besides Naru-kun here, is Yugito, Naru-kun s second wife and my bestie, alongside Kura-chan. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. I heard many good things about you from Naruto-kun, and I am happy to be able to meet his big sisters. Yugito smiled to them, with Anko sheepishly, and a tiny bit embarrassingly, rubbed the back her head, with Kurenai smiling to her. I noticed already how you were eyeing me, Kurenai-san, and yes, I am a kunoichi, a former one, to be exact. A former one. Did you retire? Kurenai asked of Yugito. Not quite. Let s just say that my village no longer needed my special skills and someone has decided to cut their funding on me. Yugito said cryptically, while Kurenai and Anko understood everything on this. Fortunately, Naruto-kun has a very admirable trait of never leaving people in trouble when he can help them. Had it not been for him, I wouldn't be here and wouldn't know what it's like, to be loved and cared, as well as the joy of being a mother. Yugito blushed a little bit with a smile. Yup, our Naru-kun is our all-out personal knight in shining armor and we just can get enough of him. Mata said with lovely gaze upon her husband. And before you ask, me and Kurenai-chan aren't from shinobi or anything, just good old civilians with some special traits, like with Kura-chan here being wicked good with seals, and me just you good old feisty fiery lady. Does that mean that you, Mata-chan, are from a clan with some form of fire-based Kekkei Genkai, while you, Kurama, are an Uzumaki by blood, since, Kurenai suggested, with Kurama taking the initiative. I can say with full certainty for Mata-ne-chan, Kurenai-san, but my parents were Uzumaki, though not shinobi. They were both civilians, with father dying before I could recall him and my mother being a Miko priestess at a small temple on the island of Honshu of Mizu no Kuni. I studied under her, and later on became a Miko myself, whilst also being taught the Fuinjutsu by her. Kurama told them the legend that she and Naruto had created for her. When the war broke out, however, I decided to leave it and traveled to my ancestral home in Uzu, to see it for myself. There, Naruto-kun and I met, probably drawn in by the past and, well, I believe the rest needs no explanation. Kurama let out a small smile, blushing up a little. Well, as for me, I am an orphan and no jack about my parents or any relatives, but Kurenai-chan and I go way back here, since I hung out with her ever since we were kids. Mata said for herself. So, Suna-ba-chan, can you explain what was that entire ruckus about out there? Naru-kun just shot up when he sensed the barrier being breached and ordered us to stay put, with a barrier up as well. We already had enough worries with those Akatsuki nut jobs this morning, and now this. Wait, Akatsuki, here. Tsunade freaked out, with Anko and Kurenai too being in shock, with Naruto taking the initiative. Two members of the Akatsuki, one named Kakuzu of Jongu, and the other one called Hidan the Jashinist, came to wave this morning and caused some destructions, drawing my attention. From what I gathered up, those two were after the bounty put on me, or Hanzo if you will. Naruto explained to them, with Tsunade and other two-leaf shinobi listening. They weren't well prepared and got from the start, so I ended up having an upper against them. I put Hidan under a genjutsu, keeping him out of the fight, so it left me dealing with Kakuzu. It was challenging, but they had dealt with far force, so I pulled through. And as for Hidan, the Jashin followers and those fanatics have some form of pseudo-immortality put on them, which make them near impossible to really kill. Had met a couple of those in Mizu, and it didn't go well either for people they killed, specifically a full squad of Shinsengumi. But, luckily for me, there is a trick to them as well. Sever the head, burn the body away to ashes, and seal the head away. A month and a half later, and the Jashinist is dead. Naruto, we been trying to gather information on them for years, and you just killed two of their members, like it was nothing for you. Jiraiya has been trying to find out anything on them for over 7 years now, but failed to do so. Tsunade asked of him, with Naruto simply nodding to her. Damn it, I sometimes forget that in combat prowess you could give old Uncle Tobirama a run for his money. Did you at least get any form of information from them, anything? Not a thing, and I doubt that Hidan would like to talk, not that I would let such a psycho out anyway. Naruto responded to his grandmother. But it looks like your spymaster Dosen even know how and where to look for information about them. Naruto simply rubbed his temple for a little bit. The Akatsuki Don operate like your typical nuke nins, but more like ronins like me, taking jobs as independent mercenaries, working for the highest bidder, operating within the shadows and even using proxy and puppet companies as a front for their operations. Back in Mizu, there were at least 3 mercenary companies that were secretly controlled by Akatsuki, working as their proxies, getting profit for themselves, and that just that I know of. Their business scheme is for a proxy to approach the client, like an advertiser for a buyer, offer up the services of the Akatsuki, as if they were their own, and then Akatsuki proceed to act, while the entire deal and information about it appears to be made only between the client and a mercenary group, separate and not affiliated with the Akatsuki. That's how they probably escape under the radar of the frog fetishist. Naruto, and how do you know about it? Kurenai asked of him. Most of their business scheme I know from one of the mercenary leaders I interrogated during the war, and as for the rest, they got informants and friends in pretty much every country and nations. This is how I get most contracts, and those people also supply me with information of rival companies, Ronins and Nuke Nins that are in this business too, so they also know about Akatsuki and their actions and what they are interested in. Naruto informed them. From several of my reliable sources, I found out that the Akatsuki's primary interests lie with the Jinchuriki of hidden villages, and their tailed beasts. They spent millions of ryo to gain more info on them, identities, family members, powers, rank, ways to approach them, aka everything. Such information gathering is not something that can be hidden well, and when someone starts to ask so many questions about Jinchuriki, just say, my informants started to get a very bad feeling that this one was no longer in their level of business. With the amount of data they were gathering, I can tell that they were really after capturing the tailed beasts, and they could gone at them at least 3 years ago, but, there was a sudden and emergency change of plans on their part, due to sudden death of Sanbi, and later on, the death of Gobi. All done by yours truly, though I don't understand or get it, why would deaths of 2-tailed beasts put a stop to them? This is far more than we gathered on them in 7 years. When I get back to the village, this information will be put to good use. Tsunade already determined, before remembering why she was here. Anyway, girls, there is a reason as to why I am also here, and it would be best if I told you all about it. May we sit? Everyone gotten into their seat and Tsunade finally began to reveal why she was here and what she really wanted from Naruto. 20 minutes later, Tsunade had concluded her tale and talk, telling Naruto, Enko and Kurenai, along with Naruto's wives, what kind of mission she had in her mind for Naruto and what she was planning. What Enko and Kurenai just heard was something they were digesting with a lot of difficulty, while Matabi and Yugito looked at Tsunade with wide eyes, while Kurama was in deep thought of her own. Naruto simply listened to it all, hands on his knees as he sat, eyes closed and thinking this all over, until he finally spoke up. I gotta hand it to you, Ka-chan. Out of every possible mission, request, or just a friendly favor, I did not expect that you would be giving me such a mission. Naruto opened up his eyes, looking at her. Okay. I done some really difficult stuff and completed near impossible missions, destroyed at least 4 castles, killed 2 biju, saved over 2,500 men and women in a single night through Iryo ninjutsu, but this will make Uchiha massacre by Itachi look like a child play. This is Onoki combined collection of wet dreams and possibly the biggest, meanest, most disgracing flip-off for first, second, third and fourth Hokage. Actually, seeing how things are in Konoha, with how it degraded and fell, I will have to say that I am far more on with this plan. Minato suddenly spoke up from Naruto's mindscape, having been silent for over a year now. Naruto, I know we have discussed this, and I understand that you want to keep away from Konoha, but, perhaps it is time to confront your demons, if you know what I mean. This surprised Naruto, and Kurama, who listened through their link. Yeah, no kidding here. If old monkey shitbrain had heard you right now, he would have a bloody heart attack. Enko said, processing what she just heard. This mission sounds far more like something that would give my old teacher a boner, if he has it even, or whatever is hanging down there. Enko, I think we got your point. And yes, she is right. Kurenai said, looking at hardened face of Tsunade. Lady Tsunade, I know that situation in Konoha is far from good, but Aaron T there less, extreme actions that you would be able to take to improve it. Kurenai, you yourself should know by now, that any other options would not only be ineffective, but will only serve to further fester the infection in Konoha. Tsunade spoke with medical metaphors. Daimyo herself has personally stated to me, that the situation with Konoha is now beyond her patience and mercy. Either I implement what we just discussed into action, or she will send her armies to put Konoha to the sword. She won T have a civil war to fight like one in Mizu, and see the other nations march upon her with their full armies, chopping off regions and land like a butcher chops off the meat off a pig s body. Tsunade let out a sigh. This is the situation we are in. This is no longer just Konoha, but an entire land of fire. Either we do this, or the entirety of the country ends up being nothing more but a note in history books. Yeah, and what you are proposing here can be translated as the highest form of treason. Yugito spoke up. Me, Matabi, Kurama and Naruto here hold no loyalties for your village, Tsunade, and you know it, but, what you are proposing, if other villages catch a wind of this, a new shinobi war will be on the horizon for you. I know, Tsunade simply stated to them with sorrow. They fought in 2 of them, and even back then, Konoha had won every time due to its sacrificing something or someone, completely ignoring what True Will of Fire stated. Uncle Tobarama, clans of Senju, Uzumaki, hundreds of shinobi and more, am sick and tired of this way, of sacrificing fine men and women on the pedestal of Konoha, like some savages. Besides that, when compared to an all-out civil war, shinobi wars were always a far more contained sorts of conflicts. Battles were fought far away from the civilian-populated areas, daimyos, feudal lords and other politically significant persons were kept out of it, people of the country itself almost never even noticed the battles or wars. In fact, the most destructive and costly of them all was the Second Shinobi World War, with the majority of all the action taken in Aim no Kuni, all because Hanzo has declared it a battle zone in its entirety, which has led to deaths of thousands of civilians and shinobi alike, the only instance in shinobi world wars. Naruto summarized, as he opened his eyes. But the kind of war that Ka-chan speaks here about, this kind of war, it makes shinobi world war look like a little skirmish on the borders, a contained small experiment between the nations, a show of their force in a controlled manner. But civil war, it is an uncontrollable chaos made into reality, where civilians die not in dozens or tens, but in tens of thousands daily. Former friends become worst enemies in a single night, and there is no trust in one another, just battles, fighting and death. You don't know if you LLC the next day or not, or if your partner stab you in the back, being an undercover agent or a traitor. I may not seen your shinobi world wars, but I will take any of them over what has happened in Mizu. Naruto stated with grim confidence and knowledge. Was it that bad out there? Anko asked of him, having heard only rumors regarding the entire event, but she believed that they were exaggerated. I heard some very up things happened there, but, it couldn't have been that bad, could it? No, Anko, it was worse. Naruto simply stated to her, shocking Anko, as she saw in his eyes clear flashes of nightmares that plagued Naruto's mind at night, while he sighed and spoke up again. When all is considered, what Ka-chan is proposing is the lesser of 2 evils, of 3 even. Naruto stated simply. So, Naruto, does that mean that you will accept this mission? Tsunade asked of him, with Naruto responding. You know, had it simply been about me, I would gladly taken this mission. Hell, just thinking about makes me kinda giddy. Naruto said with a small chuckle, before became serious again. However, this is no longer just about me. If I am returning back to Konoha, then I am bringing my family with me. I can just leave them here, and Akatsuki will soon react to the loss of 2 of their members. However, I will not bring my wives and my children back into that nest of vile and corrupt, if I don't know if they will be defended or not. I can personally vouch and guarantee their protection, and you already know what will happen if someone harms them. You get a full reign to respond with lethal force if you want. No strings from Konoha attached. You, and everyone you bring along for this mission, are officially part of Daimyo*'s personal private contractors, hired by her to assist Konoha and ordered to take orders only from me personally. The council will have nothing on you, and if they do make their move, then you get the carte blanche to do whatever you see fit to put them in their place, within the borders of law, that is. Tsunade explained to him, with Naruto sighing at this one. And just to make it clear, you and your family will be staying over in my estate. Not even civilians will be stupid enough to try anything in my house, plus it ll let me see my cute little grandkids far more often. Tsunade said in a giddy way, already planning out to spoil them rotten while she had the chance. Well, I personally got no good or bad feels for Konoha, save for what they done to Naru-kun, so, if Naru-kun is in, I am going along with it. Mata said. Same here, and I will not let my husband be all alone in that nest. Yugito stated to him, with Naruto smiling to her and Matabi, before looking at his first wife, deep in her thought. Kurama, it is your call now, love. Naruto spoke to her through their telepathic link. I am ready to simply refuse it, if you want it, and no questions are asked. Just say the word. You know how much I hated Konoha, Naruto. For all that they had done to you, how it had betrayed its own founders and made a mockery of their work, and most importantly, for how they used you and threw you out. Kurama said to him mentally, while looking at him in the real world. Of all the places on the faces of this planet, that one is the only one I wish I could wipe out of existence. Once, it may been a place where I would be glad to raise our Yasaka, Naruto-kun, but now, Mito, yet again you are proven right. Kurama, if this is your decision, then it is decided. We won be heading to Konoha, and will go to Mizuen. Naruto-kun, Kurama suddenly stopped him mentally. You know that I had greatly respected and cherished my friend, Mito Uzumaki, your grandmother. What you may not know of, is that before the day of her passing, she had asked of me something. Flashback. 38 years ago. Mito Uzumaki***'s mindscape. In a small bench overlooking an ocean sat Mito Uzumaki, an elderly, very old lady and one of the last surviving Uzumaki, dressed in a simple white kimono, with her eyes seemingly closed, but a content smile upon her old, riddled with wrinkles face, as she overlooks the ocean. At her side sits a young, beautiful-looking woman, with snow-white long hair, tied up in a long ponytail, blue eyes, and alabaster-colored skin, dressed in white and light blue kimono, looking at the ocean herself. Two old friends sat on a bench together, until Mito spoke up. Thank you, Kurama. Mito smiled to Kyubi, her once prisoner, now the closest friend she had and companion, the only one that now remained with her. You need not to thank me, Mito-chan. Kurama smiled to her friend here. I merely wanted to let you see your home, to feel it. I know that it merely a mental projection of your own mindscape, yet. No, Kurama, it is beautiful. And thank you for this as well, Kurama. You always seem to know when I had my spirits down. Mito said to her, letting out a sigh as she looked at the sunset. What I thank you is for being with me, an old wrinkled woman, possibly one of the last of her now extinct clan, soon to pass away. Now, that is not a good way to speak, Mito. Kurama chided her lightly. Your clan is one of the toughest, I would know of it well, and I am sure that Shingen had gotten many of your clansmen out of Uzu in time, not only that little brat Kushina. And what is all this talk about passing away anyway? You are still as lively as ever and. Kurama, Mito stopped her with a strong and firm, yet calm and soothing voice. It all right. I know that my time is near, and you know it even better than I do. Kurama let out a sigh, looking greatly saddened at this realization. Look at you. The great and almighty Kyubi no Yoko, looking so distraught, all because of her jailer passing away. Don T speak like that, Mito. Kurama practically shouted at her, tears coming out of her eyes. I was wrong to have said all those bad things about you, and I apologize to you. Why, you are the closest person I have, and you are not just some measly human, but my dearest friend, and there is a way to. Kurama, you know my opinion on that, and I still stand by it. Mito said to her softly, taking her hand into her own. And I never held any ill for what you said to me all those years ago. And I apologize to you for keeping you here, and for imprisoning you against your will. I wish I did differently all those years ago. Mito, Kurama sniffed a bit. Is there anything I can do to you? Something to ease the passing away. Mito simply chuckled at this one. Oh, Kurama, you have done for me more than you even realize, my good friend. Mito chuckled to Kurama. Had it not been for you, I doubt that this old body and spirit of mine would lived so long, especially after all the losses I had witnessed. First was Hashi-kun, then Tobi-kun, and after him my hero-kun and Nanai-chan, then my little Nawaki, nearly all of Senju, and now, my clan, the great Uzumaki clan, my home and village of Uzushiogakure, gone just like all of them. Sacrificed upon the pedestal of Konoha, like all of them. Mito said with great deal of sadness, grief, bitterness, and anger even, shocking Kurama. Madara Baka was right. For many years I couldn't believe him, yet now, looking at Konoha now, I can see that he was right about it all. There has appeared and grown darkness, and now, it is not just a small leech, but a tumor that grows and consumes what my husband and our clans had built. Kurama listened well to her friend, not disagreeing with her, for it was true. Yet, there is still light and hope for it. Kurama added. Suna-s son and your great-grandson, Minato. Even though he is still young, I can clearly see the best of Hashirama and Tobirama in him. Calm and collected, not seeking conflict, yet understanding that to protect the peace, one must be ready to defend it with his life. I am sure he will lead the village out of these turbulent tides and into calmer waters. Yes, he has what it takes to be a worthy Hokage, yet I fear that this village may no longer be worthy of a true Hokage. Mito let out what she truly thought. Hiruzen-s ideals of peace and pacifism may be good, but how he had seen them implemented had corrupted this village. His peace, it is not the peace that Hashi-kun wanted. It is an apathy, negligence and inability to stand for peace when it matters the most, and it is this apathy that gave way to corruption. And at the other end is Danzo, with his ideas of truly strong hidden village. He may think himself smarter and greater than Hiruzen, yet he is the same fool as Saru. Cold and brute force without any emotions and focused in the hands one man for his own ambitions will not bring strength to village, but will only get it destroyed. Tobi-kun knew it well, very well, yet he failed to teach them both about it. And in the end, we have a man that is blinded by the light of so-called peace, and another one so deep in the darkness that he no longer sees shadows of light, and in between them grew the Konoha I now know, yet not recognized from before. Now it is not a beacon of prosperous future and peaceful life for our children, but a tree, whose roots are rotting, and its leaves burn away in light of sun, and there is no true shadow anymore. Kurama, I fear that Konoha's days may now be counting, and its own people will one day not just bring its end, but may once again ignite the Sengoku Jidai in Hai no Kuni, Mito admitted to Kurama, who couldn't help but agree with her. Minato-kun, I truly hope that you save the leaves and roots of our great tree. Kurama, you have been my greatest friend and companion, one that I will always be most grateful of knowing. The feeling is mutual and even greater, Mito-chan. Kurama bowed to her a little. I know it is not my place to ask anything of you, but do not say it like that, Mito. If there is anything I can do, just ask of me. Kurama wanted to ease the last hours for her dearest friend and was ready to do anything. Thank you, Kurama. Mito smiled to her with tears. I wish to ask you of a favor. Should there ever come a time when Konoha has shed away all of its ways and teachings of its founders, I wish for you, the one that has been here in Konoha since its true days, to save the village from itself. Save it from itself. Mito, if what you are thinking is true, then, are you sure? Kurama asked of her, knowing of her thoughts through their link. To go this far, would Hashirama and Tobarama approve of this? Hashi-kun would not. He would seek to return the village to its beginnings through more peaceful means, yet I fear that by that time, all of his words would fall upon deaf ears. Even so, he would understand the need for doing this. When a garden is left unattended, the weeds and wildness takes over, destroying it and turning once a haven of peace and calmness into a residence of vile and corrupt. Mito let out a sigh, gazing out in the ocean. If it comes to such garden may become a threat to the fields of crops, take away the precious bread that people eat. And before it must happen, the garden must be returned to its beginnings, and there are no half measures for this, Kurama. I know that when I pass away, Kushina shall take my place. Poor thing, her mind is already plagued by the council and their warnings of you, as well as Hiruzen*'s blinded ideals. I wish she had listened to me, but, call it an intuition, but I believe, that one day, you may find a host that shall be able to save Konoha and return itself to what it once was, and I wish for you to guide him, Kurama. Will you oblige this feeble old lonely lady this last request? Mito asked of Kurama, who listened to her, before letting out a defeated sigh and speaking up. You just had to play this old tune, didn't you, Mito-chan? Kurama looked up to her. Very well. On my word and upon the memory of Rakudo Sennin, my father, I swear to complete your final request, Mito Uzumaki. And I do really hope that the host after that foolish girl will be at least half as good as you. Mito simply chuckled at this one. I wouldn't know, Kura-chan. Who knows, it may happen to be a cute-looking boy next time for you. You may even find yourself in love with him before you know it. Mito joked a little, looking at a flustered face of her closest friend Kyubi. Flashback end. Mito Ba-chan, I didn't even realize it, I always knew that she was a great woman, a true mother of Konoha, but ask such thing of you, Kura-chan, Naruto said to her mentally in shock. She cared for her husband*'s legacy more than anything. In the end, when all of her family, her clan and friends, all were gone, the only thing for her left was the village, the legacy that she and Hashirama had built for their children. Kurama said to her husband with sadness. And for decades she observed it becoming what you saw it, Naruto-kun. For her, I believe it was what finally killed her, the last nail in her coffin, Konoha**s destruction, not physically, yet spiritually. It killed her soul. Uzushiogakure**s destruction had wounded her deeply, yet the degradation of Konoha had finished the job. I wish I had been able to ease her pain in any way, yet, I hate this Konoha, Naruto-kun, and I will never accept it or let it get its hands upon our family, that is my word. However, I have given Mito my word, swore upon my father**s name and memory, and this single promise had allowed Mito to pass away without further pain. I may be known as bringer of destruction, but no one will ever dare to say that Kurama does not hold her word. And I will not rest easy, until my friend**s soul is put to peace, Naruto-kun, I ask, no, beg you. Kurama looked at her husband, who merely nodded to her. We are coming, all of us. I take this mission, Ka-chan. Naruto said to Tsunade, shocking her and the girls, with Tsunade glancing at Kurama, who nodded at this one too. However, let me make this clear, we are not with Konoha, no one in there will have a word over our actions, and if anyone even touches my family, I will kill whoever it is, be it their precious Uchiha, Danzo, or even Kushina with Menma. I hear you, Sochi, and I thank you. Tsunade let out a relieved sigh, bowing to him, before addressing Anko and Kurenai. Anything leaves your mouth about this talk you can kiss your careers goodbye, along with citizenship of Konoha and Hai no Kuni. Both women nodded at this one. Once we are in Konoha, I am sealing the hell out of our home. Kurama promised to Tsunade, who looked at her surprised. I am an Uzumaki. We seal all and everything our hands can get to. Kurama said dismissively for the public. And the fact that Mito had taught me all of her seals and I brushed it all up with Uzumaki_'s bountiful library is a more than a welcomed addition to my already fearsome power. Kurama said to herself in her mind. Agreed, but even with me and my family there, we still need some help out there. Plus, there are still some unfinished matters that need to be settled. Naruto said, as he rubbed his chin in thought. Well, looks like I'll be skipping morning training tomorrow. Ka-chan, do you mind coming with me tomorrow morning? There are a couple of people I want you to meet, and there are a few persons who could greatly help with your plan. Are they trustworthy? Tsunade immediately asked, with Naruto nodding to her. Trustworthy, loyal, and I would trust both of them with my life, Ka-chan. Naruto said to her with a smile. With one, I trusted him my life during the entirety of Mizu's civil war, and he is quite possibly the greatest swordsman of this era, a master Hirazuki style and one of the legends of Shinsengumi and Mizu. And the other one, she and I have known each other for years, having met in the beginning of my shinobi career. She may not shown herself much during the last 4 or so years, but in Mizu she saved more lives than even I did, as well as a life one of the more loyal shinobi of Leaf, someone who was declared dead. Naruto said to her with a small smile.